This 4-year-old beggar girl is abandoned, with her 3 siblings in the woods. But a millionaire passes by in a luxury car and does something no one expected. Comment what you think will happen. Your opinion is very important, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. Your help is very important. The biting cold of a June morning in Harmony Creek made little Lily, age 6, shiver as she walked barefoot down the dirt roads. Her small feet carefully stepped on the loose pebbles, trying to avoid the roughest parts of the frozen ground. Beside her, her 3 older siblings shared the same fate. Caleb, 12, his shoulders hunched with the weight of premature responsibility. Lucy, 10, who held Lily's hand firmly, and David, 8, who maintained a stubborn sparkle in his eyes, even in adversity. The town was slowly waking up. The aroma of fresh bread from Mr. Miller's bakery mingled with the characteristic scent of homemade cheeses drying on shelves of the houses, creating that unique atmosphere that defined Harmony Creek. But for the 4 children, these aromas only intensified the hunger that had been gnawing at their empty stomachs for days. Caleb stopped in front of the trash cans behind the bakery, hesitating for a moment. His almost teenage dignity struggled with the desperate need to find something, anything, to feed his younger siblings. Lucy noticed her brother's hesitation and, with a silent gesture, stepped forward to rummage through the first can. Her determination surprised even Caleb, who followed her with a heavy heart. "I found bread," Lucy whispered, holding up some stale pieces that were still enough to stave off hunger. David clapped his hands softly, trying to keep his spirits up despite the situation. Lily just watched everything with her big, expressive eyes, a disturbing wisdom for a child her age reflected in her gaze. While sharing the pieces of bread they found, Caleb couldn't stop thinking about the scribbled note his mother had left on the kitchen table. The words written in trembling handwriting still echoed in his mind. "I can't take care of you anymore. Forgive me." Just like that, she had disappeared in the middle of the night, leaving only emptiness and despair. Their father, Oswald, had disappeared months ago, after discovering that his wife was having an affair with Tony, the owner of the general store. Humiliation and anger had consumed him so much that he simply vanished, leaving behind not only the family, but also a mountain of debt that accumulated like stones in the riverbed that cut through the town. Lily slowly chewed her piece of bread, watching the movements of the people passing by on Main Street. She had an unusual ability to perceive people's feelings through their gestures and expressions, something that made her seem older than she really was. At that moment, she felt the weight of Caleb's worry, Lucy's silent determination, and David's feigned strength. The sound of an approaching engine made all the children turn around. A well-maintained and polished imported pickup truck contrasted completely with the simplicity of the town. The vehicle slowed down and stopped right in front of the group of children. Lily immediately felt that something was about to change. A tall man, approximately 38 years old, with dark hair lightly graying at the temples, got out of the truck. His simple but high-quality clothes and his grey eyes carried an intensity that immediately caught Lily's attention. There was something familiar in that look, a deep sadness that she could recognize because she saw it reflected in her siblings' faces every day. Elijah Montgomery had inherited his grandfather's small dairy factory and, over the years, had managed to turn it into a prosperous business. But financial success had never been able to fill the void left by Rachel, the woman who had abandoned him in his youth in search of a more glamorous life in the city. Since then, he had become a reserved, distrustful man who kept his distance from people to avoid new disappointments. At that moment, however, something in the scene of the children rummaging through the trash struck him in a way he couldn't explain. Maybe it was Lily's lost look, or the way Lucy protected her younger siblings, or even Caleb's silent dignity trying to support the family. It was completely out of character for his calculating and distrustful nature, but Elijah felt an irresistible impulse to help. "Are you hungry?" he asked in a soft voice, crouching down to be at the children's level. Caleb immediately stepped in front of his siblings, suspicious. He had learned not to trust adults, especially after everything the family had been through. "We don't need your pity," Caleb replied, his chin raised in defiance. But David, less cautious, stepped forward. "We are," he said simply, ignoring his older brother's reproachful look. "It's been 3 days since we ate properly." Elijah felt his heart clench. 3 days. They were just children, and they had been without a decent meal for 3 days. His silent generosity, the one he hid behind a rough facade, began to emerge. "I have a factory nearby," he said, pointing to a building a little further ahead. "I need help with cleaning and organizing. Do you want to work?" He paused for a moment, assessing the children's reaction. "There's a room in the back where you can stay temporarily." Caleb narrowed his eyes, his suspicion increasing. "And what do you want in return?" "Honest work," Elijah replied simply. "Nothing else." Lucy exchanged a look with Caleb. They both knew they didn't have many options. The house where they lived was about to be taken by creditors, and they had nowhere to go. Lily, who had remained silent throughout the conversation, approached Elijah with small, cautious steps. "Your eyes are sad," she said with the brutal sincerity of children. "Like ours." Lily's observation hit Elijah like a punch to the stomach. She had seen through all his defenses with just one sentence. There was something about that girl that disturbed and fascinated him at the same time. "Maybe," he murmured, not really knowing what to say. "But maybe we can help each other." Caleb still hesitated, but Lucy made the decision for everyone. "We accept," she said, holding Lily's hand tighter. "But anything weird and we're leaving." Elijah nodded, respecting the girl's determination. "Fair enough," he said. "Come with me. Let's see what we have in the factory kitchen." As they walked towards the factory, none of them imagined that that simple moment, that chance encounter on a cold June morning, would be the beginning of a journey that would transform all their lives in ways they could never have foreseen. Lily, walking beside Elijah, felt something different in the air, a change she couldn't explain, but that made her have a glimmer of hope for the first time in months. The factory loomed ahead of them, its whitewashed walls reflecting the faint morning sunlight. But there was something beyond those walls, something that Lily felt but couldn't name, a feeling that, finally, they might have found a place where they belonged. Elijah's dairy factory was bigger than the children imagined. The strong smell of fresh cheese and sour milk permeated the air, creating a unique atmosphere that mixed work and tradition. Well-maintained machines occupied the main space, while wooden shelves displayed cheeses in different stages of maturation. It was a striking contrast to the rustic simplicity of the rest of the town. Elijah led them through the main area of the factory, briefly explaining each section. Caleb watched everything carefully, his mind working quickly to assess whether this place really offered an opportunity or if it was just another trap. Lucy kept Lily and David close, ready to run at the first sign of danger. "The kitchen is here," said Elijah, opening a side door that revealed a clean and organized space. "You can shower there." He pointed to a small but functional bathroom. "And the room is in the back." The room was simple: 4 twin beds, an old wardrobe, and a window that overlooked a small backyard where some fruit trees grew. It wasn't luxurious, but it was clean and safe, something the children hadn't had in a long time. "You can settle in," Elijah said, hesitating at the door. "I'll prepare something for you to eat." When he left, Caleb immediately turned to his siblings. "We can't trust him," he whispered. "Rich men don't help poor people without wanting something in return." "He doesn't look rich," David observed, sitting on one of the beds. "His clothes are simple." "The truck is not," Caleb retorted. "And did you see the size of that factory? This man has money, a lot of money." Lucy remained silent, watching Lily, who had positioned herself near the window and was looking at the backyard with a thoughtful expression. "What are you seeing, Lily?" He takes care of the trees, the girl said, pointing to the well-pruned and watered plants. Someone who takes care of the trees isn't completely bad. Lily's observation made Caleb roll his eyes, but Lucy understood what her younger sister meant. There was something about the way Elijah maintained his space that suggested care and attention to detail. The smell of food reached them, making their stomachs rumble in unison. Elijah had prepared a simple but abundant dish: rice, beans, stewed meat, and fresh cheese from the factory itself. It was the first decent meal they had had in days. "Eat as much as you want," Elijah said, serving the children. "Then we'll talk about work." David attacked the food with enthusiasm, while Lucy ate slowly, savoring each bite. Caleb hesitated for a moment before starting to eat, his suspicions still latent. Lily, in turn, watched Elijah discreetly as he ate. "Why are you doing this?" she asked suddenly, with her childish frankness. Elijah stopped clearing the kitchen and looked at the girl. The question caught him off guard. Because you need help." "A lot of people need help," Lily insisted, "but you don't stop for everyone." The girl's perspicacity bothered him. She was right, of course. He passed by people in need every day without getting involved. But something that morning, something in the way they were there, had touched a sensitive chord that he preferred to keep buried. "Sometimes," he said carefully, "we do things because we need to do them, not because we understand why." Caleb raised his head, interested in the answer. There was something in Elijah's voice that suggested he was being sincere, even if he wasn't being completely clear. After lunch, Elijah showed the children what he expected of them. For Caleb, he offered work in the production area, helping with the cheese molds and organizing the stocks. For Lucy, he suggested that she help with cleaning and in the factory kitchen. David could help with small repairs and maintenance, something that clearly excited him. "And me?" Lily asked. Elijah looked at the little girl, uncertain. "You can stay around here, play in the backyard. You're too young to work." "I know how to do things," Lily protested. "I know how to sweep. I know how to fold clothes. I know how to take care of plants." "She's more capable than she seems," Lucy defended. "Lily has always helped at home." Elijah nodded, touched by the girl's determination. "All right. You can help me take care of the plants in the backyard and maybe organize some papers in the office." Lily smiled, satisfied. It was the first genuine smile he had seen on her face. The first few days passed in relative tranquility. Caleb worked with determination but maintained a defensive posture, always alert for any sign that Elijah might have ulterior motives. Lucy proved to be extremely efficient in cleaning, and David revealed a natural talent for fixing small mechanical problems. Lily, in turn, began to accompany Elijah on his daily tasks, observing him with that disturbing intensity that characterized her. She noticed small details that others didn't perceive: how he avoided prolonged eye contact, how his hands trembled slightly when he received mail, how he became tense whenever someone knocked on the door. It was during one of these observations that Lily noticed something strange. Elijah had received a letter, and when he read it, his expression changed completely. He turned pale, his hands trembled visibly, and he quickly hid the letter in a drawer in the office. "Who sent the letter?" Lily asked with her childish curiosity. Someone I knew a long time ago," Elijah replied evasively. "Someone who made you sad?" The question hit Elijah like an arrow. "How do you know it makes me sad?" "Because you get the same face as Caleb when he remembers Dad," Lily said simply. Elijah sat heavily in the office chair. Lily's ability to read people was disturbing and, at the same time, strangely comforting. It had been a long time since anyone had cared enough about him to notice his feelings. "Some people," he said after a long silence, "hurt us even without wanting to. And sometimes, even after a long time, it still hurts." Lily approached and, without asking permission, climbed onto Elijah's lap. The gesture was so natural and spontaneous that he didn't have time to react. "I also have pains that don't go away," she said, resting her head on his chest. "But sometimes, when someone cuddles, it hurts less." Elijah felt a strange emotion rise in his chest. It had been years since he had felt this kind of connection with another person. His arms closed instinctively around the girl, in an embrace that was both protection and a search for comfort. It was at that moment that Lucy entered the office to let him know that she had finished cleaning. She stopped at the door, observing the scene with an unreadable expression. There was something touching in that moment, but also something that made her slightly uncomfortable. "Sorry," she said, interrupting. "I didn't mean to bother you." Elijah straightened up, gently pushing Lily away. "You didn't bother me. Lily was helping me organize some papers." Lucy nodded, but her eyes remained alert. She had assumed the responsibility of protecting her younger siblings, and any change in the behavior of the adults around them put her on guard. That night, as the children settled down to sleep, Lucy pulled Caleb aside for a private conversation. "Did you notice how he acted today?" she whispered. "Who?" "Elijah. He was different, more close, especially with Lily." Caleb frowned. "Different how?" "I can't explain it. But Lily is getting attached to him. And that worries me." "Why?" "Because," Lucy hesitated, "because if we have to leave, it's going to be even harder for her." Caleb looked at his younger sister, who was sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. Lucy was right. Lily was getting attached to Elijah, and that could be dangerous for all of them. "We'll keep an eye on things," he said finally. "Anything weird, we're out of here." What neither of them knew was that in the next room, Elijah was also awake, staring at the letter he had received. A letter simply signed R, which stirred up all the wounds he thought he had healed. And now, with the children there, everything became even more complicated. Because for the first time in years, he had something to lose again. The third week at the factory brought a routine that the children hadn't experienced in months. Caleb woke up early to help Elijah with the first batch of cheeses, while Lucy organized the kitchen and prepared a simple but nutritious breakfast. David had become indispensable in small repairs, fixing everything from dripping faucets to adjusting the older machines. Lily, in turn, had created her own morning ritual, watering the plants in the backyard and organizing the papers in the office with a precision that impressed even Elijah. It was during one of these mornings that Mr. Miller, the owner of the bakery, appeared at the factory, a portly man of 55, with a greying moustache and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He had always been a respected figure in town. His bakery had been around for over 20 years, and many residents bought his bread daily. But lately, since Elijah's factory had started producing successful cheese breads, Mr. Miller had been feeling a competition that didn't exist before. "Elijah," he called out loudly, interrupting the morning work, "I need to talk to you." Caleb, who was organizing cheese molds near the entrance, immediately noticed the tension in the man's voice. Without anyone noticing, he positioned himself where he could overhear the conversation. "Good morning, Mr. Miller," Elijah greeted him, wiping his hands on his apron. "How can I help you?" "It's about these kids you've taken in," Mr. Miller said bluntly. "People are talking." "Talking about what?" "Well, you know how it is in a small town. Single man, alone, suddenly shows up with 4 children. Mr. Miller left the sentence hanging in the air, loaded with innuendo. Elijah felt anger rise in his chest. "These children are working honestly and have a safe place to stay. I don't see a problem with that." "I'm not judging," Mr. Miller said, raising his hands in false defense. "I'm just saying that people talk. And you know how these things can spread." "What kind of things?" "Well, you've never been interested in starting a family, never married, and suddenly—" Mr. Miller shrugged. "People create their own theories." Caleb felt his stomach churn. He knew exactly what Mr. Miller was implying, and the anger he felt was intense, but there was something else in the way the man spoke, something that didn't sound like genuine concern. "Mr. Miller," Elijah said in a controlled voice, "I suggest you stop spreading unfounded rumors. These children lost their parents and need help. That's it." Sure, Mr. Miller agreed quickly. "I just think you should be more careful. Maybe contact the authorities. Do things right. Things are being done right, if you say so." Mr. Miller took one last look around the factory, his eyes lingering on the new machines and the organized movement. "Well, I just wanted to warn you. As a neighbor, you know." After Mr. Miller left, Elijah remained standing for a long moment, his hands clenched into fists. Caleb approached hesitantly. "I heard," he said simply. Elijah looked at the boy, seeing in him a maturity that shouldn't exist in someone so young. "And what did you think?" "I think he's lying," Caleb replied without hesitation. "He wasn't worried about us. He was worried about something else." "Why do you think that?" "Because he kept looking at your machines the way Dad used to look at money he didn't have," Caleb explained. With envy. The boy's astute observation impressed Elijah. Caleb was right. Mr. Miller wasn't worried about the children's well-being. He was bothered by the factory's success. "Caleb," Elijah said carefully, "you and your siblings are going to hear things. People in town might make comments. You have to know that I would never do anything to hurt you." "I know," Caleb replied, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. "You're weird, but you're not bad." "Weird? You get sad when a letter arrives, you don't like talking about yourself, and sometimes you stare into space like you're seeing a ghost," Caleb listed. "But Lily likes you, and she always knows when someone is bad." At that moment, Lily appeared in the office, carrying a stack of organized papers. "Elijah, there's a new letter for you," she said, handing him an envelope. Elijah immediately recognized the handwriting. It was from Rachel again, the third letter in 2 weeks. His hand trembled slightly as he took the envelope. "Is it from the same person as before?" Lily asked with her natural curiosity. "It is," Elijah replied, putting the letter away without opening it. "Aren't you going to read it?" "Later." Lily watched him with that disconcerting intensity. "Are you afraid of what's written?" The question hit Elijah like an arrow. "Why do you ask that?" "Because you always put her letters away without reading them right away," Lily explained. "And then you get even sadder." Caleb watched the interaction with growing interest. There was something about those letters that deeply affected Elijah, and that could be important to understanding the man's true intentions. "Lily," Elijah said softly, "some things from the past are complicated. Sometimes we need time to face them. My mom used to say that bad things don't get less bad if we don't look at them," Lily said. "They just get scarier." The girl's simple wisdom left Elijah speechless. She was right, of course. Avoiding Rachel's letters didn't make them disappear. It just made the situation more distressing. With his hands trembling slightly, Elijah opened the envelope. Caleb and Lily watched as he read, seeing his expression change gradually. First surprise, then confusion, and finally a mixture of pain and anger. "What kind of person writes letters that leave you like that?" Caleb asked directly. Elijah folded the letter carefully. Someone who I loved very much, and who left me when I needed her most." "And now she wants to come back?" Lily deduced. "How do you know that?" "Because if she didn't want to come back, she wouldn't need to keep sending letters," Lily explained with childish logic. "And you would only be sad, you wouldn't be angry too." Elijah smiled despite the anguish. "You're very smart. So it's true? She says she wants to talk, that she has important things to tell me." "Are you going to let her come back?" Caleb asked, and there was something in his voice that suggested the answer was important to him. "I don't know," Elijah answered honestly. "It's complicated." "Complicated how?" "She left me because she wanted things I couldn't give her. A different life, more money, more glamour. Now she says she regrets it." Lily approached and held Elijah's hand. "But you're not the same as before, right?" "What do you mean?" "You have us now," she said simply. "That changes things." Elijah felt something tighten in his chest. She was right. Everything had changed since the children arrived. He was no longer the same lonely and bitter man. He had responsibilities, people who depended on him, a routine that included other lives besides his own. "Yes," he said finally, "that changes everything." That afternoon, Lucy noticed that Elijah was more distant than usual. She found him in the backyard, looking at the fruit trees with a thoughtful expression. "Did something happen?" she asked. Elijah turned around, surprised. "Why do you ask?" "Because you have the same face as Caleb when he's worried," Lucy said. "And because Lily said you received a letter that left you confused." "You guys talk about me. We talk about everything," Lucy replied sincerely. "We've learned to pay attention to people. It's a matter of survival." The girl's brutal honesty impressed him. "And what have you concluded about me?" "That you're a good person who is suffering because of something," Lucy said. "And that you like us, even trying not to show it. That's a fairly accurate analysis. We've learned to read people," Lucy explained. "When you depend on others to survive, you learn to know who is trustworthy and who is not." "And I'm trustworthy?" "You are," she replied without hesitation. "But you're scared. I don't know of what, but you are." Elijah sighed. "I'm scared that you guys have to leave. Because of the letter. Because of many things." Lucy was silent for a moment, processing the information. "You're not going to send us away because of a letter, are you?" "No," Elijah replied firmly. "I'm not." "Then it's okay," Lucy said pragmatically. "We've been through worse." That night, while the children slept, Elijah reread Rachel's letter. She was returning to Harmony Creek next week and wanted to talk to him in person. She said she had important things to explain about why she had left, and that maybe there was a chance to start over. Elijah looked out the window at the room where the children were sleeping. In just 3 weeks, they had completely changed his routine, his habits, his priorities. For the first time in years, he had something beyond himself to worry about. And the prospect of Rachel coming back and complicating everything terrified him. Because now, unlike 5 years ago, he had much more to lose. The 4th week brought changes that no one expected. David, who had become responsible for the small repairs of the factory, discovered a serious problem in one of the main production machines. The engine was making a strange noise, and when Elijah called the technician from the neighboring town, the man gave a devastating diagnosis. The machine needed to be replaced, and the cost would be equivalent to 3 months of the factory's revenue. "Can't it be repaired?" Elijah asked, the concern evident in his voice. "Look, Elijah," said the technician, an experienced man of 50 named Gerald, "this machine has given all it had to give. Repairing it now would be throwing money away. In 2 months, it will break again." Caleb watched the conversation from the corner of the factory, paying attention to every word. He had learned to read the expressions of concern on the faces of adults, and he knew that this situation was serious, very serious. "How long can the factory operate without this machine?" Elijah asked. "A week at most," Gerald replied. "After that, you'll have to stop production." After the technician left, Elijah stood in the middle of the factory, looking at the broken machine with an expression of despair that he tried to hide. But Lily, who had developed an almost supernatural ability to read his emotions, approached him. "Is it very bad?" she asked, holding his hand. "It's complicated," Elijah admitted, crouching down to be at her level. But we'll figure something out." "You're worried that we have to leave," Lily said, not as a question but as a statement. The girl's perspicacity continued to surprise him. "I'm not going to let that happen," he promised, even not knowing how he would fulfill that promise. "Can I help in any way?" asked David, who had approached upon hearing the conversation. "I'm good with machines." "You're good with small repairs," Elijah said gently. "This here is more complicated, but I can try," David insisted. "If it doesn't work, at least we tried." Elijah was about to refuse when Lucy joined the group. "Let him try," she said. "David has always been good with these things. He used to fix everything at home." "I don't want him to get hurt," Elijah protested. "I'm not going to get hurt," David said with determination. "I just want to look. Maybe I can see something that the other man didn't see." Reluctantly, Elijah allowed David to examine the machine. The boy spent the rest of the afternoon studying each component, asking technical questions that impressed even Elijah. There was something in the way David understood mechanics that went beyond his age. "Do you know where this talent comes from?" Elijah asked Lucy while they watched David work. "From our grandfather," she replied. "He was a mechanic. He died when we were little, but David spent hours with him in the workshop. It seems he kept everything in his memory." That night, while the children slept, Elijah made desperate calculations in his office. Even selling everything he had of value, he still wouldn't be able to raise enough money to buy a new machine, and without the machine, the factory would close, and he would have no way to support the children. It was then that he found a desperate solution. He could sell a portion of the factory land to get the necessary money. It would be painful, as the land had been inherited from his grandfather, but it was the only way to keep everything running. The next morning, Elijah was preparing to go to the bank when David approached him with an animated expression. "I found the problem," the boy announced. "The machine isn't broken. There's a part that's out of place." "David, the technician said that—" "The technician didn't look right," David interrupted. "He only looked at the surface, but I stayed up all night thinking, and there's something that doesn't make sense." Elijah sighed. "Show me." David led Elijah to the machine and pointed to a specific section. "Look here, this part is loose. If we tighten it right and replace this belt here, the machine will work again." "Are you sure?" "I am," David replied with conviction. "My grandfather always said that we have to listen to the machine. It tells us what's wrong." Elijah decided to give the boy a chance. Together, they worked throughout the morning, adjusting parts, replacing belts, and lubricating components. When they finished, David held his breath as Elijah turned on the machine. The engine ran perfectly. No strange noises, no abnormal vibrations. The machine was fixed. "I don't believe it," Elijah murmured, a mixture of relief and admiration in his voice. "I knew it would work," said David, beaming with pride. Caleb and Lucy, who had watched everything from afar, approached with huge smiles. Lily simply hugged David, whispering, "You saved us," in his ear. That afternoon, Elijah called the 4 children for a conversation in the office. "You saved the factory," he said, emotional. "David, especially you. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me," David replied. "We're family now." The word family hit Elijah deeply. It was the first time one of the children had used that term, and he felt something break inside his chest. But not in a painful way. It was as if a barrier he had built over the years finally gave way. "Yes," he said, his voice choked up. "We're family." It was in this moment of celebration that Mr. Miller appeared at the factory again. This time he wasn't alone. He had brought with him Tony, the owner of the general store, and 2 other men that Elijah recognized as local merchants. "Elijah," Mr. Miller said with a false smile, "we need to talk." "About what?" "About the situation of these children," Tony replied. "It's not appropriate for a single man to take care of 4 children without proper supervision." "What supervision do you think is necessary?" Elijah asked, feeling anger grow. "Well, maybe it's better for them to stay with more appropriate families," suggested Mr. Miller. "Traditional families, with a wife and a husband." "These children are doing very well here," Elijah said firmly. "Are they really?" questioned one of the other men. "Children working in a factory, is that legal?" Caleb, who had heard everything, felt his blood boil. He knew exactly what was happening. Those men weren't worried about the children's well-being. They wanted something from Elijah, and they were using the children as a pretext. "Hold on," said Caleb, coming out of his hiding place. "You're not worried about us." "Of course we are," replied Mr. Miller with false indignation. "That's a lie," Caleb said directly. "You never worried about us when we were starving on the street. You only showed up after we started working here." "Boy, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Caleb interrupted. "You want something from him, and you're using us as an excuse." Elijah felt a wave of pride for the boy's courage. "Caleb is right," he said. "You never showed concern for these children before. Why now?" "Because now they're in an inappropriate situation," insisted Tony. "The inappropriate situation was when they were on the street without food, without a home," Elijah replied. "Now they have all that." "But you're not related to them," argued Mr. Miller. "You don't have legal rights." "I'm taking care of that," Elijah lied. "Soon I'll have legal guardianship of them." The lie came out naturally, but the moment he said it, Elijah realized that it was exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to make official what he already felt. These children were his family. "Well," said Mr. Miller, clearly disappointed for not having gotten what he wanted, "we hope that's true." After the men left, Elijah turned to Caleb. "Thank you for defending me." "Thank you for defending us too," Caleb replied. "But were you serious about legal guardianship?" Elijah looked at the 4 children who were watching him with hope and anxiety. "I was," he said. "If you want, of course." "We want to," said Lily immediately. "We want it very much." "But that means you'll be my children officially," Elijah explained. "Forever. It's not a temporary thing." "We know," said Lucy, "and that's what we want." That night, Elijah stayed awake late, thinking about the implications of what he had promised. Adopting 4 children was a huge responsibility, but for the first time in years, he felt complete. What he didn't know was that, in the neighboring town, Rachel had decided to bring forward her trip. She would arrive in Harmony Creek in 2 days, and would bring with her revelations that would change everything once again. Tuesday morning began like any other, with the children waking up early for their daily tasks. Lily watered the plants in the backyard, humming a song she had learned from her mother, while David checked if all the machines were working well. Lucy prepared breakfast, and Caleb organized the cheese molds that had been prepared the day before. Elijah was in the office, filling out papers related to the adoption process that he had started the day before. The lawyer from the neighboring town had explained that it would be a long but possible process, as long as he could prove that he had the financial and emotional conditions to take care of the children. It was when he heard the sound of a car stopping in front of the factory. It wasn't a familiar sound. It wasn't the supplier's truck or the old car of the technician Gerald. It was something different, smoother, more expensive. Elijah got up and went to the window. His heart almost stopped when he saw an elegant woman getting out of an imported car. Perfectly styled blonde hair, clothes that clearly cost more than most residents of Harmony Creek earned in a month, and a confident posture that contrasted completely with the simplicity of the town. Rachel had arrived 2 days earlier than expected. "Elijah," she said when he opened the door, her voice filled with an emotion he couldn't identify. "You're different." "Rachel," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I wasn't expecting you so soon." "I needed to see you," she said, approaching. "We have a lot to talk about." Lily, who was in the backyard, heard unfamiliar voices and came to investigate. When she saw the elegant woman talking to Elijah, she immediately felt something different in the air. The tension was almost palpable, and Elijah seemed completely different, more rigid, more closed off. "Who is she?" Lily asked, approaching Elijah and holding his hand. Rachel looked at the girl with surprise. "Elijah, who is this child?" "Rachel, this is Lily," said Elijah, feeling the need to protect the girl. "Lily, this is Rachel, an old friend." "Old friend," Rachel repeated, a note of hurt in her voice. "We were more than that, Elijah." Lily watched the interaction with her sharp perception. There was something about that woman that made her uncomfortable. Not malice exactly, but a kind of selfishness that she could feel. "You're sad again," Lily said to Elijah, "like when you received the letters." "Letters?" Rachel asked, interested. "You kept my letters." "Lily, go call your siblings," Elijah asked gently. "Tell them we have a visitor." Lily hesitated for a moment, not wanting to leave Elijah alone with that woman who made him so different, but she obeyed, running inside the factory. "Siblings?" Rachel asked, confused. "Elijah, how many children do you have here?" "4," he replied. "They lost their parents and are living with me." "Living with you?" Rachel seemed genuinely shocked. "Elijah, you don't have children. You always said you didn't want—" "Things changed," he interrupted. "Changed how? You suddenly decided to become a foster parent." "It wasn't a calculated decision," Elijah admitted. "They needed help and I—" "And you what? Decided to play family?" The accusation hit Elijah like a slap. "It's not a game. These children are my family now." "Elijah, you don't know what you're doing," Rachel said, her voice taking on a condescending tone. "Taking care of children isn't like taking care of a factory. You don't have experience, you don't have a wife." "I have love," Elijah said simply, "and that's more than they had before." At that moment, Caleb, Lucy, and David appeared, followed by Lily. They all stopped when they saw the elegant woman, clearly out of place in that environment. "These are Caleb, Lucy, and David," Elijah introduced. "Children, this is Rachel." "Nice to meet you," Lucy said politely, but Caleb remained silent, studying the woman with suspicion. "Are they all siblings?" Rachel asked. "They are," Elijah replied. "And now they're my children too." "Your children?" Rachel laughed, but it wasn't a cheerful laugh. "Elijah, when I left, you could barely take care of yourself. How can you think you can take care of 4 children?" "I take very good care of them," Elijah said, irritation growing in his voice. "Take care of them?" Rachel looked around, noting the children's simple clothes, the rustic environment of the factory. "This is care? Children working in a factory?" "They don't work," Elijah defended. "They help. It's different." "For whom?" Rachel challenged. "For you or for them?" Caleb stepped forward, unable to contain himself. "We like to help," he said firmly. "Nobody forces us to do anything." "Oh, sure," Rachel said sarcastically. "I'm sure you'd rather work in a factory than be in school." "We're going to school," said Lucy. "Elijah enrolled us last week." "How generous," murmured Rachel. Lily, who had observed everything in silence, approached Elijah again. "She doesn't like us," she said softly, but loud enough for Rachel to hear. "That's not it," Rachel said quickly. "It's that I worry about Elijah. He doesn't know what he's gotten into." "Yes, he does," Lily said with conviction. "He takes care of us better than our real parents." Lily's statement echoed in the air like thunder. Rachel was speechless for a moment, clearly not expecting so much loyalty from the children. "Elijah," she said, trying to regain control of the situation, "can we talk in private?" "Anything you have to say, you can say in front of them," Elijah replied. "They are part of my life now." "Elijah, please," Rachel insisted. "Just a few minutes." Elijah hesitated, but finally agreed. "Children, you can go back to your activities. I'll be back in a few minutes." Reluctantly, the children walked away, but Lily stayed close enough to hear parts of the conversation. "Elijah, I made a mistake," Rachel began when they were alone. "A terrible mistake. I should never have left you." "You left me because I wasn't rich enough," Elijah said bitterly, "because this simple life wasn't what you wanted." "I was young and foolish," Rachel admitted. "I thought money was the most important thing. But I was wrong." "And what changed your opinion?" "The fact that your rich husband left you with nothing when he died." Rachel paled. "How do you know that?" "Small town. The news gets here too." "Elijah, I lost everything," she said, tears starting to stream down her face. "The house, the money, the friends, everything was his, not mine. When he died, I discovered I was full of debts." "And now you've come back to me," Elijah said. "How convenient." It's not for convenience, Rachel protested. It's because I never stopped loving you. I just needed to learn what really matters. And what really matters? You, she said, approaching. Us. The life we could have together. The life I offered you 5 years ago and you refused. I was different then. But now I know I don't need luxury, I need you. Elijah felt a mixture of conflicting emotions. Part of him had always loved Rachel, had always kept the hope that she would come back. But now, with the children, everything was different. Rachel, my life has changed, he said. I'm not the same man you left. I know. You've matured, grown. That makes me love you even more. You don't understand, Elijah said, frustrated. It's not just about me. It's about them. These children are my responsibility now. They can be our responsibility, Rachel said quickly. I can learn to take care of them. I can be a mother to them. You just said that I don't know what I'm doing, that this isn't proper care. I was jealous, Rachel admitted, jealous of seeing you loving other people, but I can change. I can be different. Lily, who had heard everything, felt anger grow in her chest. That woman wanted to take Elijah away from them, wanted to break the family they had built. And even worse, she was lying. Lily could feel in Rachel's voice that she wasn't being completely honest. Elijah, Rachel said, holding his hands, give me a chance. Let me prove that I can make you happy. And the children? Elijah asked. What happens to them? They'll adapt, Rachel said. Children are resilient. They've already adapted, Elijah said. Here with me. Elijah, you can't choose 4 strange children instead of me, Rachel said, her voice taking on a tone of despair. We had plans. We had a future. We had, Elijah agreed, but you chose another future. And now I'm choosing you, she said. I'm choosing us. Elijah looked at the woman he had loved for so long, the woman who had been his first love, his first pain. And then he looked at the factory, where 4 children had found a home and he had found a purpose. Rachel, he said finally, I need time to think. How much time? I don't know. This isn't a simple decision. Elijah, I can't wait forever, she said. I need to rebuild my life. If it's not with you, you'll find someone else, Elijah completed, like you did last time. That's not it, Rachel protested. It's that I have nowhere to go. I have no money, no home. And there was the truth. Lily had felt it from the beginning. Rachel hadn't come back just for love. She had come back because she needed security, stability. And Elijah represented that for her. Rachel, Elijah said carefully, you can stay at the town inn while I think. I'll pay for the stay. Thank you, she said. But there was something in her voice that suggested that wasn't the answer she expected. When Rachel left, Elijah stood in the factory courtyard, feeling as if his world had been turned upside down. Lily approached him silently. Are you going to choose her? The girl asked. I don't know, Elijah answered honestly. She doesn't love us, Lily said, with the absolute certainty of children. She only loves what you can give to her. How do you know that? Because when someone truly loves, they don't speak badly about the people you love, Lily explained. And she spoke badly about us. Elijah knelt down to be at the girl's level. Lily, do you understand that this is a very difficult decision for me? I understand, she said. But you need to know that if you choose her, you're not just choosing her. You're choosing not to be our dad anymore. Lily's stark truth hit Elijah like a punch. She was right. It wasn't possible to have both. Rachel had made that clear. It was her or the children. And for the first time since Rachel had arrived, Elijah began to understand what the choice he needed to make really was. The 3 days following Rachel's visit were the most tense that the makeshift family had lived since it had formed. Elijah was different, distant, thoughtful, lost in internal conflicts that the children could feel but couldn't fully comprehend. He still took care of them, still worked at the factory, but there was an absence in his eyes that didn't exist before. Lily was the first to notice that Elijah wasn't sleeping well. She found him several times walking through the factory during the early morning, standing in front of the machines as if looking for answers in the silence of the equipment. On one of those occasions, she approached him barefoot, her silent steps not alerting him to her presence. "You're scared," she said simply, making Elijah turn around startled. "Lily, you should be sleeping," he said, trying to force a smile. "You too," she replied, "but neither of us can." Elijah sighed and sat down in a nearby chair, pulling Lily close to him. "Sometimes adults have difficult decisions to make." "You're deciding if you're going to stay with her," Lily said, not as a question but as a statement. "It's more complicated than that." "No, it's not," Lily said with her simple logic. "You have to choose, her or us. She's already made that clear. She said she could learn to take care of you." "She lied," Lily interrupted. "I saw it in her eyes. She thinks we're a problem that needs to be solved." Lily's frightening perception left Elijah speechless. The 6-year-old girl could see through people in a way that he, even with his experience, sometimes couldn't. "Elijah," Lily said, climbing onto his lap, "do you remember what it was like before we arrived?" "I remember." "Were you happy?" Elijah thought for a moment. "I thought I was, but now I realize I just existed. And now I live," he admitted. "You gave me a reason to live." "Then why are you thinking about leaving us?" The simple and direct question made Elijah realize the contradiction in his thoughts. "Because I loved her for a long time. And a part of me always wondered, what if?" "And now you know," Lily said. "The what if isn't better than what you have." The next morning, Caleb sought Elijah in the office. The boy had matured even more in recent days, taking on a role of protector not only of his younger siblings, but also trying to understand and help Elijah. "Can I talk to you?" Caleb asked, hesitant. "Sure," Elijah replied, pushing aside the papers he was organizing. "Are we going to have to leave?" Caleb asked directly. "Why do you ask that?" "Because you're different, distant, like Dad got before he left." The comparison hit Elijah like a slap. "Caleb, I'm not your father. I would never abandon you." "But you're thinking about it," Caleb said, "because of the woman." "The situation is complicated." "No, it's not," Caleb interrupted, echoing Lily's words. "You have to decide what's more important, what you had in the past or what you have now. What if I say that both are important? Then you're going to lose both," Caleb said, with a wisdom that shouldn't exist in someone his age. "Because she won't accept sharing you with us, and we won't accept being treated as a second option." "You're not a second option," Elijah protested. "Then why are you hesitating?" Elijah had no answer to that. Caleb was right. His hesitation itself was already an answer. "Caleb, I need you to understand that I love you, all of you, more than I imagined was possible. But I also need to be sure that I'm making the right choice, for you and for me." "The right choice," Caleb said, "is the one that makes everyone happy." "Are you happy with us?" "Very." "And her? Is she happy with us?" Elijah hesitated. She needs to get used to it." "That's not being happy," Caleb said. "That's tolerating." That afternoon, Rachel appeared at the factory again. This time she brought gifts for the children, expensive clothes, imported toys, fine candies. It was clearly an attempt to win their sympathy. "I brought some things for you," she said with a forced smile. "I thought you'd like them." David, always the most receptive, was genuinely excited about a remote-controlled car. "Thank you," he said, hugging Rachel impulsively. Lucy thanked her politely for the new dress, but there was reservation in her eyes. Caleb barely looked at the gifts, maintaining a defensive posture. Lily, in turn, watched everything with her usual intensity, but didn't show any enthusiasm. "Didn't you like the gift, Lily?" Rachel asked, pointing to an expensive doll she had brought. "It's very pretty," Lily said diplomatically. "Thank you." "You can play with it," Rachel encouraged. "I don't like dolls much," Lily said. "I prefer to play with real things." "Real things?" "Plants, animals, people," Lily explained. "Things that are alive." Rachel forced a smile. "Well, maybe we can find other things you like." "There's no need," Lily said. "I already have everything I need here." The comment clearly bothered Rachel. But wouldn't it be good to have new things? Prettier clothes, better toys? "No," Lily replied simply. "It would be good to be sure that we're going to be able to stay here." The silence that followed was heavy. Rachel looked at Elijah, hoping he would say something, but he remained silent. "Elijah," Rachel said finally, "can we talk?" "Sure," he replied, but there was reluctance in his voice. They walked away to the office, and Rachel closed the door behind them. "Elijah, I'm trying," she said, frustrated. "But these kids aren't making things easy." "They're children," Elijah replied. "It's not their job to make things easy. But especially that girl, Lily. She's hostile to me." "She's not hostile, she's protective." "Protective of what?" "Of the family we've built," Elijah said. "She's afraid of losing it." "But she's not going to lose it," Rachel protested. "I said I can learn to take care of them." "Rachel, do you really believe that?" I can try." "Trying isn't enough," Elijah said. "These children have already been abandoned once. They can't go through that again." "So you're choosing them," Rachel said, her voice taking on a tone of accusation. "I'm choosing the family I built," Elijah corrected. "I'm choosing the responsibility I took on." "And me? What happens to me?" "You're going to rebuild your life," Elijah said gently. "Like you should have done 5 years ago instead of looking for a rich man to solve your problems." "That's not fair," Rachel protested. "I loved my husband." "You loved the security he offered," Elijah said, "just as you're trying to love the security that I can offer now." "You're being cruel." "I'm being honest," Elijah said. "For the first time in a long time, I'm being completely honest." Rachel was silent for a long moment. "You're really not going to give me a chance?" "I gave you a chance 5 years ago," Elijah replied. "You wasted it. People can change." "They can," Elijah agreed. "I changed. These children changed me. But you're still the same person who left me because I wasn't enough." "That's not true." "Isn't it? Then why did you only come back after losing everything? Why didn't you come back when you still had options?" Rachel had no answer to that. "Because both knew that Elijah was right." "Elijah," she said finally, "if you don't give me this chance, I'm going away forever." "I know," he replied, "and I'm going to miss you. I'll always miss you. But I can't sacrifice the happiness of 4 children for my nostalgia." "So it's decided." "It is," Elijah said, and for the first time in days his voice sounded firm and resolute. "My family is these children. My future is with them." Rachel nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I expected you to say that," she murmured. "I expected and feared at the same time." "Rachel, no," she interrupted. "You're right. I came here for the wrong reasons. I've always been selfish, always thought of myself first. You deserve better than that." "You're not a bad person," Elijah said. You're just afraid." "I am," she admitted, "very afraid. But that's my problem to solve, not yours." When they came out of the office, the children were waiting in the main area of the factory. They all knew that something important had been decided. "I'm leaving," Rachel announced. "You won. Elijah is yours." "It wasn't a competition," Lucy said softly. "We just wanted him to be happy." "And he's happy with you," Rachel said, a mixture of sadness and resignation in her voice. "That's obvious to anyone who has eyes." Lily approached Rachel, surprising everyone. "I'm sorry that you're sad," she said, "but you'll find your own family." "Do you think so?" "I think so," Lily said with conviction. You just have to look in the right place. Rachel knelt down to be at Lily's level. You'll take good care of him, won't you? We all will, Lily promised. Because he takes good care of us. After Rachel left, Elijah gathered the 4 children in the makeshift living room they had created in one part of the factory. I need to apologize, he said, for the last few days, for being distant, for having left you worried. You were confused, David said. Everyone gets confused sometimes. But you didn't deserve to go through that, Elijah said. You've already been through too much abandonment. But you didn't abandon us, Caleb observed. You stayed. I stayed, Elijah confirmed, and I'm always going to stay. You are my family, my real family. Forever, Lily asked. Forever, Elijah promised, and this time there was no doubt in his voice. That night, while the children slept, Elijah stood on the factory porch looking at the stars. He felt a peace that he hadn't experienced in days. He had made the right choice. He knew it now with absolute certainty. But what he didn't know was that Rachel's departure and his decision to keep the children had reached the ears of Mr. Miller and his allies. And they were planning something that would test Elijah's determination in a way that he could never imagine. A week after Rachel's departure, life at the factory had returned to its normal rhythm. Elijah seemed lighter, more present, as if an invisible weight had been removed from his shoulders. The children responded to this change with more joy and confidence, and for the first time in weeks, the house truly felt like a home. It was on a Thursday morning that the first sign of trouble appeared. Elijah was in the office organizing the adoption papers when he heard loud voices in the factory courtyard. Going out to investigate, he found 3 men he didn't recognize talking to Caleb in an intimidating way. "Where's the man who takes care of you?" one of them asked, a thin fellow of approximately 40 years, with formal clothes that contrasted with the rural environment. "Can I help you?" Elijah said, approaching the group. "Mr. Elijah Montgomery?" the thin man asked, consulting a clipboard. "Yes, that's me. Who are you?" "We're from the Child Protective Services of the region," the man replied, showing an identification. "We received reports about the situation of the children who are under your care." Elijah's heart raced. "What kind of reports?" "Child labor, inadequate housing conditions, lack of educational supervision," the man listed. "We need to inspect the premises and talk to the children." "Of course," Elijah said, trying to keep calm. "You can see everything you want." "We have nothing to hide." For the next 2 hours, the men from the Child Protective Services inspected every corner of the factory and the residential area. They asked questions to the children, photographed the place, and took detailed notes about everything they observed. Lily, who had been especially quiet during the visit, approached Elijah when the men were examining the room where they slept. "Are they going to take us away?" she asked softly. "No," Elijah said, holding her hand. "We haven't done anything wrong." "But someone said that we did," Lily observed. "Someone who doesn't like us. Do you have any idea who it could be?" Lily looked towards the town. "The man from the bakery. He doesn't like you." Elijah sighed. "Mr. Miller." Of course it would be him. The man had found a way to attack that he wasn't expecting. "Mr. Montgomery," called the leader of the group when they finished the inspection, "I need to talk to you." "Of course." "The facilities are adequate," the man said. "The children seem healthy and well cared for. But there are some legal issues that need to be resolved." "What issues?" "You don't have legal guardianship of these children. They're here irregularly." "I've already started the adoption process," Elijah said. "I have all the papers." "Yes, we saw that," the man interrupted. "But until the process is completed, these children should be under the official care of the state." "What does that mean?" "It means that we'll have to take them to a temporary foster home while the adoption process is evaluated." "No," Elijah said immediately. "They're fine here. They're happy, healthy." "We understand your concern," the man said. "But those are the rules. We can't allow children to stay in an irregular situation, even if they seem to be well cared for." Caleb, who had heard everything, approached. "We don't want to go anywhere else," he said firmly. "We want to stay here." "Young man, unfortunately that's not your decision," the man replied. "You're underage." "But we're a family," protested Lucy, who had joined the group. "You can't separate us." "We're not going to separate you," the man said. "We're going to put you all together in a temporary foster home." "What family?" David asked, holding Lily's hand. "The Cardozo family has offered to take care of you temporarily," the man replied. "They are experienced in caring for children in vulnerable situations." Elijah felt the world spin around him. "Cardozo family? Who are they?" "Mr. Miller Cardozo and his wife, Marlene," the man replied. "They have already cared for other children in similar situations." "Miller?" Elijah couldn't believe it. "He can't stay with them. He has ulterior motives." "Mr. Montgomery, I understand it's difficult, but Mr. Cardozo is a respected person in the community. He spontaneously offered to take care of the children." "He offered because he wants to hurt me," Elijah said, anger growing in his voice. "He's doing this out of revenge." "Mr. Montgomery, you're making serious accusations." "We're not going," Lily said suddenly, surprising everyone. "We're not going with him." "Child, it's not an option," said the man from Child Protective Services. "Then you're going to have to drag us," said Caleb, positioning himself next to Lily, "because we're not going voluntarily." "Neither am I," said Lucy. "Neither am I," added David. The man from Child Protective Services looked at Elijah. "Mr. Montgomery, you need to talk to these children. This isn't helping the situation. I'm not going to convince them to go to a place where they don't want to stay," Elijah said, "especially not with someone who's doing this for questionable reasons." "Then we'll have to use other methods," the man said, taking out his cell phone. "I'm going to call for backup." "Backup?" Elijah asked, alarmed. "Social workers, security if necessary," the man replied. "These children need to come with us, whether they want to or not." It was at that moment that Gerald, the machine technician, appeared in the courtyard. He had come for routine maintenance, but immediately realized that something was wrong. "Elijah, what's going on here?" he asked. "Gerald, they want to take the children," Elijah explained quickly. "They claim the situation is irregular." Gerald observed the scene: 4 clearly terrified children huddled around Elijah, and 3 men in suits trying to convince them to leave. "Can I see your documents?" Gerald asked the men from Child Protective Services. "Sir, that's none of your business," the leader replied. "Actually it is," Gerald said. "I'm a member of the Municipal Council for the Defense of Children's Rights. I have the right to verify the legality of this operation." The man hesitated, but ended up showing the documents. Gerald examined them carefully. "These documents are valid," he said finally. "But there's a problem." "What problem?" Elijah asked. "The complaint was made yesterday," Gerald explained. "But by law, the complainant must be notified of the investigation, and the family must have the right to an attorney present during the removal of the children." "We followed all the protocols," said the leader of the group, but there was uncertainty in his voice. "Was Mr. Montgomery notified of the complaint?" Gerald asked. "Well, not formally." "And did he have the right to an attorney?" "He can get an attorney later." "No," Gerald said firmly. "By law, the removal of children can only happen after formal notification, right to defense, and hearing. You're acting outside the law." The men from Child Protective Services looked at each other, clearly uncomfortable. "Furthermore," Gerald continued, "there's an obvious conflict of interest. Mr. Miller Cardozo, who made the complaint, also offered to take care of the children. That's highly irregular." "How do you know that it was Miller who made the complaint?" Elijah asked. "Because he can't keep his mouth shut," Gerald replied. "He was at the bar yesterday telling everyone how he was going to solve Elijah's problem." "Sir, you're interfering in an official operation," the leader said. But his authority had diminished considerably. "I'm protecting the rights of children and a citizen," Gerald replied. You have two options. Follow the correct legal protocol, or leave and come back when you've done things right. This won't end here, the man said, putting away his clipboard. I hope not, Gerald said, because when it ends, legally, these children will continue exactly where they are. After the men left, Elijah hugged Gerald with gratitude. Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have managed, Gerald said, but now you need to prepare. They're going to come back, and next time they'll be with all the papers in order. How much time do we have? A week, maybe 2, Gerald replied. Enough time to get a good lawyer and prepare a solid defense. Miller won't give up, Elijah said. He won't, Gerald agreed, but he made a mistake. He did this out of revenge, not out of concern for the children, and that can be used against him. Lily approached Gerald. Thank you for helping us, she said. You're welcome, little one, Gerald replied, stroking her head. You are a family. Families should stay together. Always? Lily asked. Always, Gerald promised, especially when they are families that chose each other. That night, while the children slept, Elijah and Gerald talked about strategies. They would need a lawyer specialized in family law, witnesses who could attest to the children's well-being, and mainly, they would need to expose Miller's true motivations. There's something else you need to know, Gerald said. Miller is going bankrupt. The bakery is full of debt. He needs money, and fast. How does that relate to the children? I don't know yet, Gerald admitted, but desperate people do desperate things. Keep an eye out. Elijah nodded, but a worry grew in his chest. Miller wasn't just trying to hurt him out of envy. There was something else, something he hadn't yet discovered. And while he planned his defense, Elijah couldn't imagine that Miller's true plan was much more sinister than he could suppose. The battle for the custody of the children was just beginning, and the obstacles that would come would be greater than anything he had ever faced. 3 days after the frustrated attempt to remove the children, Elijah discovered the true extent of Miller's plan in a way he never expected. It was a Saturday morning, and he had decided to take the children for a walk around town in an attempt to normalize their lives after the trauma of the previous week. They were passing through the central square when Mrs. Carmen, a 70-year-old lady who had always been friendly with Elijah, called him with a worried expression. Elijah, my son, I need to talk to you, she said, looking nervously around. It's important. Of course, Mrs. Carmen. What happened? Not here, she said, pointing to a bench further away. Let's sit there. Elijah asked the children to play in the nearby playground while he talked to Mrs. Carmen. Lily, always attentive, noticed the tension in the lady's voice and decided to stay where she could hear the conversation. Elijah, began Mrs. Carmen, you know that I've always had affection for you. You're a good man, and these children are blessed to have you. Thank you, Mrs. Carmen. But what do you want to tell me? It's about Miller, she said, lowering her voice. He's spreading terrible stories about you around town, things that aren't true, but that are making people suspicious. What kind of stories? Mrs. Carmen hesitated. He's saying that you don't have good intentions with the children, that a single man shouldn't take care of children alone. Elijah felt his stomach churn. He's insinuating that... Yes, Mrs. Carmen said quickly. And even worse, he's saying that you're using the children to get government benefits, that you're making money with this. That's a lie, Elijah said, anger growing in his voice. I use my own money to take care of them. I know, my son. But people don't always want to hear the truth. They prefer the stories that confirm their prejudices. How many people are believing this? More than I'd like, Mrs. Carmen admitted. Miller is persuasive, and he's exploiting people's fears. You know how small towns work, Lily had approached without them noticing. He's lying about you, she said, making the 2 adults turn around. Lily, did you hear our conversation? I heard, she said without apologizing, and I know why he's doing this. Why, my dear? Mrs. Carmen asked. Because he wants something. People only lie when they want something they can't have any other way. Lily's observation made Elijah think. Mrs. Carmen, do you know if Miller is having financial problems? Oh, yes, she replied. The bakery is doing very badly. He owes money to half the world. My husband said he tried to apply for a loan at the bank, but it was denied. So why does he want to stay with the children? Elijah asked. That would only increase his expenses. Maybe not, Mrs. Carmen said thoughtfully. Maybe he's found a way to profit from it. How? I don't know, she admitted. But I've known Miller for a long time. He's always been greedy. If he wants these children, it's because he sees some advantage in it. That afternoon, Elijah decided to investigate on his own. He left the children with Gerald, who had offered to take care of them, and went to town to ask some discreet questions. His first stop was at City Hall, where he spoke with Mr. Joe, the oldest employee in the place. Joe, I need some information, Elijah said. Do you know anything about government programs for families who care for orphaned children? There are some, Joe replied. Why? Curiosity. What are the values? Well, there's the emergency aid for foster families, which pays about 2 minimum wages per child per month. There's the housing program that provides a house. And there are some tax incentives too. Elijah did the calculations quickly. 4 children would represent 8 minimum wages per month, plus additional benefits. For someone in financial difficulties like Miller, that would be a significant amount. Joe, has anyone recently applied to be a foster family? Let me see, Joe said, consulting some papers. Ah, yes. Miller Cardozo signed up last week. He said he wanted to help children in need. What a coincidence, Elijah murmured. Why? Nothing. I just found it interesting. His next stop was the bar where Miller used to drink. The owner, Mr. Marty, was a discreet man but listened to everything that happened in town. Marty, can I ask you a question? Elijah said, ordering a water. Sure. Has Miller been saying anything about me? Marty hesitated. Elijah, you know I don't like gossip. It's not gossip if it's affecting the lives of 4 children, Elijah said. Well, he's been saying that you're taking advantage of the children, Marty admitted. That you're making money with them. What else? That he could take care of them much better, that he has experience with children, that his wife always wanted children. Marlene always wanted children. Actually, no, Marty said, lowering his voice. Marlene never liked children. She always complained when children came into the bakery, said they made too much noise. So why would she agree to take care of 4 children? Good question, Marty said. Maybe because Miller didn't give her a choice. When Elijah returned home, he found the children in the backyard with Gerald, who was teaching David some mechanical tricks. Lily came running to meet him. Did you find out why he wants us? She asked directly. I found out, Elijah replied. He wants the money that the government pays for families who take care of orphaned children. How much money? Asked Caleb, who had approached. Enough to solve his financial problems, Elijah replied. So he doesn't want to take care of us, said Lucy. He wants to use us. Basically. That's disgusting, David said, making a face. It is, Elijah agreed, but now that we know, we can do something about it. What? Asked Caleb. We're going to expose his true motivations, Elijah said. We're going to show everyone that he doesn't want to help you. He wants to profit from you. Gerald joined the conversation. That could be dangerous, he said. Miller won't like being exposed. I don't care, Elijah said. These children aren't merchandise. But how are we going to prove it? Lucy asked. Leave it to me, Gerald said. I have some contacts who can help. That night, while the children slept, Elijah and Gerald worked out a plan. They needed concrete evidence of Miller's financial motivations, and they had an idea of how to get it. It's going to be risky, Gerald said. If he finds out what we're doing, he's already trying to destroy our family, Elijah said. It can't get worse. Yes, it can, Gerald said. But sometimes you need to fight to protect what you love. The next morning, Elijah received a call that changed everything. It was from the lawyer he had hired to take care of the adoption process. "Elijah, we have a problem," the lawyer said. "Miller got a temporary court order." "What kind of order?" "Prohibiting you from leaving town with the children until the legal situation is resolved." "But we weren't going to leave town." "It doesn't matter. He's creating legal precedents that can be used against you later." "What does that mean?" "It means that he's being advised by someone who knows the law well, someone who knows exactly how to use the system against you." Elijah felt a chill down his spine. Who would be capable of that? "I don't know," the lawyer admitted, "but whoever it is, they're playing to win." When Elijah hung up the phone, Lily was standing at the office door, watching him with that intense expression that meant she had understood something important. "Someone is helping him," she said. "How do you know?" "Because he's not smart enough to do this alone," Lily said with her simple logic. "There's someone smarter bossing him around." "Who do you think it could be?" "I don't know," Lily said, "but I know they're not going to give up. They want something very much." "What do you think they want?" "It's not just the money," Lily said thoughtfully. "It's something else, something you have and they want." Elijah looked at the 6-year-old girl, who could see through situations with a clarity that adults didn't possess. "What do you think I have that they want?" "I don't know yet," Lily admitted, "but we'll find out." That afternoon, the answer came in a way no one expected. Tony, the owner of the general store, appeared at the factory with a proposal that finally revealed the true plan behind all the attacks against Elijah. "Elijah," he said, "I've come to make a proposal that you can't refuse." Tony entered the factory with the confidence of someone who knew he held all the cards. He was a robust man of 50, with graying hair and a smile that never seemed completely sincere. His clothes were simple, but he carried an air of authority that came from years of being one of the most influential figures in town. "Elijah," he said, sitting down uninvited in a chair in the office, "you seem tense. Problems with the children?" "What proposal do you have for me, Tony?" Elijah asked directly, not wanting to prolong the conversation. "Straight to the point." "I'd like that," Tony said, smiling. "Well, me and some partners are interested in expanding our business. Your factory is in an excellent location, and you have modern equipment. You want to buy my factory?" "Exactly," Tony confirmed. "We're prepared to make a generous offer, very generous." "And why do you think I'd sell?" "Because," Tony said, leaning forward, "you're about to face a long and expensive legal battle. These children... Well, taking care of them is going to cost a lot of money. Lawyers, lawsuits, not to mention the day-to-day costs." "These children are my family," Elijah said firmly. Sure, Tony said with false understanding, "but family is expensive, and you're going to need a lot of money to keep that family together." "How much are you offering?" $500,000, Tony said, watching Elijah's reaction. Cash. It was a substantial amount, more than the factory was worth on the local market. Elijah knew there was something wrong with this proposal. "Why so generous?" he asked. "Because we're businessmen," Tony replied. "When we want something, we pay the fair price." "And what do you really want?" "I already said, your factory." "No," Elijah said, studying Tony's face. "There's something more. $500,000 is a lot of money for a small factory in a small town." Tony hesitated for a moment, and Elijah realized he had touched a sensitive point. "Well," Tony said finally, "maybe we have bigger plans for the region, development, tourism, that sort of thing." "What kind of development?" "That's none of your business," Tony said, his tone getting colder. "The question is, do you accept our offer or not? And if I don't accept..." "Well," Tony said, standing up, "then you're going to have to face all the problems alone. The battle for the children, the legal costs, the pressure from the community. It could be very difficult." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm being realistic," Tony said. "You have a week to decide." After Tony left, Elijah stood in the office, trying to process what had just happened. $500,000 was a lot of money, but there was something about the proposal that didn't add up. "He was lying," Lily said, appearing at the door. "Did you hear the conversation?" "I heard," she said without apologizing. "He doesn't want your factory. He wants something else." "What do you think he wants?" "I don't know," Lily admitted. "But there's something in this place that's very valuable. More valuable than he's paying." Elijah looked around the office, trying to imagine what could be so valuable. The factory was small, the equipment was good, but not exceptional. The location was convenient, but not special. "Lily, can you call Gerald?" he asked. "I need to talk to him." When Gerald arrived, Elijah told him about Tony's proposal. The technician listened to everything with growing attention. $500,000? Gerald repeated. "Elijah, that's 3 times the market value of this factory." "I know. That's why I think there's something more." "There has to be," Gerald agreed. "Let me do some research." "What kind of research?" "I'm going to see if there's any development project for this region that we don't know about. I'm going to check if there's anything special about this land." That night, while the children slept, Elijah couldn't stop thinking about Tony's proposal. $500,000 would solve all his financial problems. He could hire the best lawyers, secure the custody of the children, and still have enough money to give them a comfortable life. But something bothered him deeply. It wasn't just the money. It was the way Tony had spoken, the confidence in his voice, as if he knew that Elijah would have no choice. The next morning, Gerald returned with information that changed everything. "Elijah," he said with a serious expression, "you need to sit down to hear this." "What did you find out?" "There's a mining project planned for this region," Gerald said. "A big company from out of state wants to explore ore here." "What kind of ore?" "High-quality iron. There's a vein that passes exactly under your land." Elijah felt the world spin. "Are you sure?" "I am," Gerald said, showing some papers. "I got these documents from a friend who works in the state government. The project hasn't been officially announced yet, but it's been in development for months." "How much is it worth?" "Millions," Gerald said. "Maybe tens of millions." "And Tony knows this?" "He's one of the local investors," Gerald confirmed, "along with some other businessmen in the region. Mr. Miller, too." "Mr. Miller doesn't have money to invest," Gerald said, "but he may be being used as a pawn in the game." "That's why he wants the children," Elijah said, finally understanding. "It's not for the government money. It's to pressure me to sell the factory." "Exactly," Gerald agreed. "If you lose the children, you'll be desperate. Desperate people make bad deals. And if I sell cheap, they get the mining rights, which are worth a fortune." Elijah stood up, anger growing in his chest. "They're using 4 orphaned children as pawns in a game for millions of dollars." "That's what it looks like," Gerald said. "The question is, what are you going to do with this information?" "I'm going to expose all of them," Elijah said. "I'm going to show the whole town what kind of people they really are." "That could be dangerous," Gerald warned. "They have a lot of money at stake." "These children are more important than any money," Elijah said. "I'm not going to let them use them this way." That afternoon, Elijah called the children for a meeting in the office. He knew they deserved to know the truth about what was happening. "I found out why Mr. Miller and Tony want to separate us," he said. "Why?" asked Caleb. "Because under this factory there's an iron mine that's worth millions of dollars," Elijah explained. "They want me to sell the factory cheap, and they're using you to pressure me." "They want to use us as a weapon?" Lucy asked, indignant. "Basically." "That's disgusting," David said. "We're not things to be used." "You're not," Elijah agreed, "and that's why we're going to fight." "How?" asked Caleb. "We're going to expose the truth," Elijah said. "We're going to show everyone that Mr. Miller doesn't want to take care of you. He wants to blackmail us." "What if it doesn't work?" Lily asked. "It will work," Elijah said with determination, "because the truth is more powerful than any lie." "What if they get angry?" David asked. "And they're already angry," Elijah replied. But now we know why. Lily approached Elijah. You're not going to sell the factory, are you? No, Elijah promised. This is our home. No one is going to take us out of here. Not for a lot of money? Not for all the money in the world, Elijah said, hugging the girl. You are more important than anything. But what if they manage to take us away? Caleb asked. They're not going to be able to, Elijah said, because now we know the truth. And the truth gives us power. That night, Elijah began to plan his strategy. He needed to expose Tony and Miller's scheme, but in a way that protected the children and ensured that justice was done. The first step would be to document everything they had discovered. The second would be to find a way to make this information public. And the third would be to prepare for the battle that would certainly come. Gerald, he said on the phone, I need your help with one more thing. What do you want to do? I'm going to call a public meeting, Elijah said. I'm going to expose the whole truth to the entire town. Elijah, that's very risky. Not as risky as letting them use these children as pawns, Elijah said. It's time to stop being passive. When? Tomorrow night, Elijah said, in the central square. I'm going to invite the whole town. What if nobody shows up? They're going to show up, Elijah said, because everyone wants to know the truth about this situation. What if Tony and Miller try to stop it? Let them try, Elijah said. That will only prove that we're right. While Elijah made his plans, he didn't know that Tony had already discovered that his proposal had been indirectly rejected, and that now, desperate to get the land, he was preparing a final move that would test the limits of Elijah's resistance in a way he could never imagine. The war for the truth was about to begin, and the children who had started this journey looking for food in the trash were now at the center of a battle that would decide not only their future, but the future of the entire Harmony Creek community. The morning of the public meeting brought a twist that no one expected. Elijah was preparing the documents he would present to the community when he received an urgent call from his lawyer. Elijah, we have a serious situation, said the lawyer's tense voice. Mr. Miller filed a new petition in court. He's claiming that you're putting the children in danger. What kind of danger? He says you're using the children in a dangerous commercial dispute, that you're exposing them to retaliation because of your business. Elijah felt his blood run cold. That's ridiculous. It may be ridiculous, but it's clever, the lawyer admitted. He's using your decision to make the information public against you. How did he know about the meeting? Small town, Elijah. Everyone knows everything. What does that mean legally? It means that if the judge accepts the petition, the children can be removed today before the meeting, the lawyer explained. He's arguing that it's an emergency protection measure. It can't be, Elijah said, feeling despair grow. They can't do that. Yes, they can, and they'll probably try. You have a few hours at most. When Elijah hung up, Lily was standing at the office door with that expression that meant she had understood everything. They're going to try to take us today, she said. How do you know? Because you have the same face you had when the pretty woman arrived, Lily explained. Afraid of losing us. I'm not going to let that happen, Elijah promised. But you can't stop them alone, Lily said. You need help. What kind of help? From the whole town, Lily said with her simple logic. If everyone knows the truth before they arrive, it will be harder to take us. Elijah looked at the 6-year-old girl, who consistently demonstrated more wisdom than many adults. You're right. The meeting can't wait until tonight. When is it going to be? Now, Elijah said, picking up the phone. Right now. During the next hour, Elijah and Gerald worked frantically to spread the news throughout the town. They called all the contacts they had, asked the children to warn their friends from school, and even used the factory's loudspeaker to announce that there would be an important meeting in the square in 2 hours. Is it going to work? Caleb asked, helping to carry the documents. It has to, Elijah replied. It's our only chance. When they arrived at the square, Elijah was surprised by the number of people who were already there. Mrs. Carmen had brought her friends. Mr. Joe from City Hall was present. Several families with children, and even some merchants who normally didn't get involved in community issues. "There are more people than I expected," Gerald commented. "People want to know the truth," Lucy said. "They're tired of the lies." Elijah positioned himself in the center of the square, with the children by his side. His voice trembled slightly when he began to speak. "Thank you all for coming," he said. "I know it was at the last minute, but there are things you need to know before it's too late." "Speak up, Elijah!" someone shouted from the crowd. "What's this story about you exploiting the children?" "That's exactly the lie they're spreading about me," Elijah replied. "But the truth is the opposite. There are people in this town who are trying to use these children to blackmail me." "Who?" asked Mrs. Carmen. "Mr. Miller Cardozo and Tony Silva," Elijah said, provoking murmurs in the crowd. "They discovered that there's a valuable iron mine under my factory, and they want me to sell the land for a fraction of the real value." "That's a lie!" shouted a familiar voice. Mr. Miller had arrived, accompanied by Tony and 3 more men that Elijah didn't recognize. "Then explain why you offered to take care of the children right after making the complaint about me," Elijah challenged. "Because I care about their well-being," Mr. Miller replied. "Unlike you, who's using them in a commercial dispute." "I'm not using anyone," Elijah said. "You're the ones who are trying to separate us to pressure me to sell my property." "Prove it," said Tony, stepping forward. "I'm going to prove it," Elijah said, picking up the documents. "Here are the papers that show the mining project. Here's the real value of the mine. And here's the proposal that Tony made to me, $500,000 for something that's worth millions." The crowd stirred as Elijah showed the documents. Gerald had managed to make several copies, and they circulated among the people. "Do you know how much money Mr. Miller owes in town?" Elijah continued. "He's going bankrupt. And do you know how much he would receive from the government to take care of the children? 8 minimum wages per month. Enough money to solve his problems." "That doesn't prove anything," Mr. Miller said, but his voice didn't sound so confident anymore. "Doesn't it?" Elijah said. "Then explain why you never showed interest in taking care of children before. Why your wife, who everyone knows doesn't like children, suddenly agreed to take care of 4. "We changed," Mr. Miller said weakly. "Changed at the exact moment you found out you could profit from it," Elijah said. "You don't want to take care of these children. You want to use them." It was at that moment that Lily stepped forward. Her small but firm voice echoed through the square. "I know when adults are lying," she said. "I learned that when my parents lied to me. The man from the bakery is lying." "How do you know?" someone from the crowd asked. "Because when he looks at me, he doesn't see a child," Lily explained. "He sees money. When Elijah looks at me, he sees family." Lily's comment deeply touched the people present. Many of the women began to cry, and the men seemed moved by the girl's brutal honesty. "Besides," Lily continued, "if he really wanted to take care of us, why didn't he offer help when we were on the street looking for food in the trash? Why did he only offer after he knew he could make money from it?" Lily's question left Mr. Miller without an answer. He looked around the square, seeing the expressions of the people gradually change from doubt to indignation. "You don't understand," Tony said, trying to regain control of the situation. "This child has been coached to say these things." "No one coached me," Lily said, her voice filled with a dignity that impressed everyone. "I just know the difference between who loves me and who wants to use me." "That's ridiculous," Tony said. "You can't take seriously what a 6-year-old—" "Yes, I can," interrupted Mrs. Carmen, standing up. "This girl has more honesty than some adults in this town." "I agree," said Mr. Joe. "Elijah has always been an honest man. These children are well cared for. But there are legal issues," Mr. Miller said, trying one last card. "He doesn't have legal guardianship." "And do you?" Gerald asked. "Do you have any documents that prove you can take care of these children better than him?" "I have experience." "What experience?" Gerald challenged. You've never had children. Your wife never wanted children. What experience do you have?" The crowd began to murmur against Mr. Miller and Tony. It was obvious that people were starting to understand the truth of the situation. "Besides," Elijah said, "if you really cared about these children, why didn't you offer help when they arrived here? Why did you wait until now?" "Because we didn't know about the situation," Mr. Miller said. "Small town," said Mrs. Carmen. "Everyone knows everything. You knew, yes." It was at that moment that two official cars arrived. From the first, the men from Child Protective Services who had tried to take the children the week before got out. From the second, a court officer got out. "Mr. Montgomery," said the leader of Child Protective Services, "we have a court order for the immediate removal of the children." "On what basis?" Elijah asked. "Allegation that they're being exposed to dangerous situations," the officer replied. "What dangerous situations?" Gerald asked. "This public meeting, for example," the officer said. "Using children in a commercial dispute." "We're not being used," Caleb said, stepping forward. "We're defending ourselves." "Young man, you have no choice in this matter," the officer said. "Yes, we do," said David, joining his brother. "We can choose who we want to take care of us." "Not legally," said the officer, "but morally, yes," said Lucy. "And morally we choose to stay with those who love us." "That's not relevant to the legal question," the officer said. "Yes, it is," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see who had spoken. It was a well-dressed man, approximately 45 years old, who had just arrived at the square. "Who are you?" the officer asked. "Dr. Ricardo Andrade, district attorney," the man said, showing his identification. "And I came here because I received a very serious complaint." "What complaint?" Mr. Miller asked, looking nervous. "Complaint that there are adults trying to use orphaned children to blackmail a citizen into selling their property," the prosecutor said. "Complaint that there's a scheme to defraud government benefits using these same children." The silence that followed was heavy. Mr. Miller and Tony seemed to have lost all the color in their faces. This is absurd," Mr. Miller stammered. "Is it?" the prosecutor said. "Then you won't mind explaining your motivations for wanting custody of these children, considering you've never shown interest in taking care of children before." We changed our minds," Mr. Miller said weakly. "Changed at the exact moment you found out you could profit from it," the prosecutor said. "What an interesting coincidence." It was at that moment that Lily did something that no one expected. She walked up to the prosecutor and looked him directly in the eyes. "Are you going to protect us?" she asked. "I am," the prosecutor promised. "It's my job to protect children from adults who want to exploit them." "Then can you let us stay with Elijah?" "If that's what's best for you, yes," the prosecutor said. "It is," Lily said with absolute certainty. "He's our dad now." The prosecutor smiled. "Then that's what we're going to do." At that moment, in the central square of Harmony Creek, surrounded by the entire community, Elijah finally understood that he had won. Not only the legal battle, but something much more important. He had won the respect and support of the entire town. But what he didn't know was that this victory would be just the prelude to an even greater discovery, which would change not only his life, but the life of the entire family he had built. 3 days after the meeting in the square, life in Harmony Creek had changed drastically. Mr. Miller had closed the bakery and left town with his wife, too ashamed to face the people he had tried to deceive. Tony was being investigated by the prosecutor for attempted fraud, and the mining company had temporarily suspended the project until the legal situation was clarified. Elijah, in turn, was living more peaceful days than he had experienced since the children arrived. The adoption process was finally moving forward without obstacles, and the entire community had mobilized to support him. Mrs. Carmen came daily to help with the children. Mr. Joe had expedited all the bureaucratic papers, and even merchants who were previously neutral now greeted Elijah on the street with genuine respect. It was on a Tuesday morning that the discovery came in a completely unexpected way. Lily was playing in the backyard when she found a metal box buried under the mango tree where she used to draw. The box was rusty, but it was still sealed. "Elijah!" she shouted, running into the factory. "I found a strange thing." "What did you find?" Elijah asked, wiping his hands on his apron. "A buried box," Lily said, holding the object. "There's writing on it." Elijah examined the box carefully. The writings were faded, but it was still possible to read, "Montgomery family, 1952. "Montgomery?" Elijah murmured. "Like my last name." "Maybe it's from your grandfather," Caleb suggested, who had approached along with his other siblings. "Could be," Elijah said. "My grandfather built this factory in the 50s. "Let's open it," David asked, curious. "Let's," Elijah decided. "But be careful, it may be fragile." Inside the box were old documents protected by a waxed cloth, some yellowed photographs, and a sealed letter with the name "To my descendants" written on the front. "They're photos of the factory," Lucy said, examining the photographs, "but it looks different." "It's because it was smaller," Elijah explained. "My grandfather expanded it over the years." "Elijah," Lily said, pointing to one of the photos, "there are children in this photo." Elijah looked more closely. In fact, in the photo there was his grandfather, a woman he recognized as his grandmother, and 4 children who clearly weren't biological children of the couple. They had very different ages and physical characteristics. "How strange," Elijah murmured. "My grandfather never told me he took care of other children." "Read the letter," Caleb suggested. "Maybe it explains." With trembling hands, Elijah opened the letter carefully. The handwriting was elegant but shaky with age. "My dear descendant, if you're reading this, it means you found our little secret. For 40 years, your grandmother Joan and I cared for orphan children in this factory. It started when we found 4 abandoned siblings on the road in 1952. We couldn't have our own children, but God gave us the opportunity to be parents in many different ways." Elijah stopped reading, emotional. "I can't believe it. My grandfather was doing exactly what I'm doing." "Keep reading," Lily asked. "Over the years, 16 children passed through here. Some stayed a few months, others years. All found loving homes or grew up here until they became independent adults. This house was built with love, and I believe it will always attract people who need love. Your grandfather was just like you," Lucy said, touched by the story. "If you're taking care of children in this house," Elijah continued reading, "know that you're following a family tradition. This place has a special energy for healing and love. Use it well, and know that there are hidden resources that can help you in this mission." "Hidden resources?" David asked. "What resources?" Elijah continued reading. "Behind the office wall there's a safe with important documents and some money I saved for emergencies. The combination is your grandmother's and my wedding date, 08-15-1925. "There's a hidden safe?" Caleb asked, impressed. "Apparently," Elijah said, still processing all the information. "They ran to the office, and after a few minutes searching, they found a section of the wall that sounded hollow when they knocked on it. Carefully, Elijah removed some boards and revealed a small safe built into the wall. "The combination," Elijah murmured, turning the numbers, 08-15-1925. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside there were more documents, some old jewelry, and several well-preserved banknotes. "Wow," Lucy whispered, "your grandfather saved all this for you." "No," Elijah corrected, looking at the children. "He saved it for us." Among the documents were birth certificates of all the children who had passed through the house, thank you letters from adoptive families, and even some photos of family reunions where adult children returned to visit Elijah's grandparents. "Look at this," Lily said, holding a photo. "This girl looks like me." Elijah examined the photo and was surprised. The girl really looked like Lily, the same big, expressive eyes, the same observant posture. "What a strange coincidence," he murmured. "It's not a coincidence," Lily said, with her characteristic wisdom. It's destiny. There's one more letter, Caleb said, picking up an envelope that was at the bottom of the safe. This letter was more recent, dated just 10 years before. The handwriting was different, more modern. To whoever finds this safe, Elijah read aloud. My name is Carlos Montgomery, grandson of John Montgomery. I'm leaving this letter because I didn't have children to continue the family tradition, but I hope that someday someone from the family will use this house for its original purpose again. Elijah paused. Carlos Montgomery was his cousin, son of his father's brother. He had died in an accident a few years before. If you're reading this and taking care of children in this house, know that there are more resources available. I invested the money my grandfather left, and now there's a bank account with enough value to guarantee the future of many children. The papers are in this safe, along with the key to the bank vault. How much money? David asked, curious. Elijah searched among the papers until he found the most recent bank statement. When he saw the value, he almost dropped the paper. $200,000, he said, incredulous. Is it a lot? Lily asked. It's enough to ensure that you have everything you need, Elijah said, emotional. Education, health, everything. But it's not just ours, Lucy said. It's for other children too, isn't it? It is, Elijah agreed. If we want to continue the family tradition. We do, Caleb said without hesitation. We want to help other children like us. But first, we're going to establish ourselves as a family, Elijah said. Then we'll think about expanding. The most important thing, Lily said, is that now we know that this house has always been special. It's always been a place where children find families. And it always will be, Elijah promised. That afternoon, while the children played in the backyard, Elijah reread all the letters and examined all the photos. It was impressive how history was repeating itself. His grandfather had started by taking care of 4 orphaned siblings, exactly like him. You're thoughtful, said Gerald, who had arrived for a visit. I'm processing all this, Elijah replied, showing the discoveries to his friend. Incredible, Gerald said, examining the documents. Your family has always had this vocation. It seems so, Elijah said. And now I understand why I felt so natural taking care of them. It's in my blood. And what are you going to do with this information? I'm going to continue the tradition, Elijah said, but officially. I'm going to register as a foster family. I'm going to use that money to improve the facilities, and I'm going to ensure that other children have the same opportunity that these 4 had. It's an ambitious project. It's a necessary project, Elijah corrected. There are many children needing families out there. And you're 4. They'll always be my daughters, Elijah said. Nothing will change that. But they can also help other children find families. That night, Elijah called the children for a special conversation. We discovered today that this house has a very special story, he said, and you are part of that story now. What do you mean? Caleb asked. Do you want this house to continue being a place where orphaned children find families? Elijah asked. Yes, they all replied in unison. Then let's make it happen, Elijah said. Let's continue the Montgomery family tradition. And will we always be your children? Lily asked. Forever, Elijah promised. You are my family, but now we can also help other children find their families. It's as if the house chose us, Lucy said. Maybe it is, Elijah said. And maybe it will continue choosing other children who need love. That night, while the children slept, Elijah stood on the porch looking at the stars. He felt as if his whole life had been a preparation for this moment, as if all the events, from the loss of his parents through the disappointment with Rachel to the meeting with the children, had been part of a bigger plan. He had found his true calling, his true family, and his true home. And now he had the resources and the knowledge to help many other children find the same. The story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. because within a few weeks, news would arrive in town that would test everything Elijah had learned about family, love, and determination. News that would force him to make the most difficult decision of his life. The news arrived on a September morning when the first fall flowers were beginning to bloom in the factory's backyard. Elijah was in the office, finalizing the papers to officially register as a foster family, when he received a call that would change everything once again. "Mr. Montgomery," said a female voice on the other end of the line. "This is Dr. Sanders from the regional hospital. I need to talk to you about something very important." "Yes," Elijah replied, an automatic concern settling in his chest. "We have a patient here in terminal condition," the doctor said carefully. "She said she knows the children who are under your care. In fact, she said she's related to them." Elijah's world stopped for a moment. "Related? What relative?" "She says she's the children's aunt, their father's sister. Her name is Connie Sanders." Elijah felt a wave of panic. "Connie Sanders, I've never heard of her." "She arrived here 3 days ago, coming from another state. She has advanced cancer, and when she found out she was dying, she said she needed to find her brother's children. But the children's parents had no family," Elijah stammered. "Apparently they did," the doctor said, "and she's claiming rights over the children." "Rights? She wants to take the children with her," the doctor explained. "Said she has an adult daughter who can take care of them. That blood family is more important than anything else." Elijah sat heavily in the chair. "Doctor, that woman is dying. How can she want to take 4 children?" "She doesn't want to take them for herself," the doctor clarified. "She wants to take them to her daughter who lives in Chicago, a 30-year-old woman, married, with good financial conditions. And legally she has that right. If she can prove the kinship, yes," the doctor admitted. "Blood relatives have priority over foster families, even in cases of adoption in progress." When Elijah hung up the phone, his hands were trembling. He was about to lose the children again, and this time to someone who had legitimate legal rights. "What happened?" Lily asked, appearing at the office door with that ability of hers to sense when something was wrong. "Lily, I need to talk to you and your siblings," Elijah said, trying to keep his voice steady. When the 4 children were gathered, Elijah took a deep breath before speaking. "A woman has appeared who says she's your aunt," he said. "Your father's sister." "Impossible," Caleb said immediately. "Dad always said he had no family." "Maybe he didn't know," Elijah said. "Or maybe they were fighting." "What does she want?" Lucy asked. "She wants to take you to Chicago, to live with her daughter." The silence that followed was devastating. The 4 children looked at each other, processing the information. "We're not going," Lily said finally. "Lily, it may not be a choice," Elijah said with a heavy heart. "If she can prove that she's really your aunt, she has legal rights." "I don't care about legal rights," Caleb said, his voice filled with emotion. "You're our dad now." "And we're your family," added David. "Real rights are more important than rights on paper." "But the law doesn't see it that way," Elijah explained. "The law says that blood family has priority." "Then the law is wrong," Lucy said firmly. "Can I meet her?" Lily asked suddenly. "Meet who?" "The woman who says she's our aunt," Lily explained. "I want to see if she's lying." "How would you know if she's lying?" "I know when people lie," Lily said, "and I know when they really care about us." Elijah considered the suggestion. Maybe it was a good idea to meet Connie Sanders in person. "All right," he decided. "We're all going to the hospital." The trip to the hospital was silent and tense. The children clung to each other, and Elijah felt as if he were taking them to an execution. Connie Sanders was in a hospital bed, visibly weakened by the disease. She was a thin woman of approximately 45 years, with grey hair and eyes that shone with a feverish intensity. When she saw the children, she began to cry. "My God," she whispered. "You're identical to my brother when he was a child." "Did you know our dad?" Caleb asked, skeptical. "I did," Connie said. "We grew up together, but we fought when he married your mother. I didn't think she was good for him. Why did you fight? Lucy asked. Because I said things I shouldn't have said, Connie admitted, and he got angry and said he didn't want to see me anymore. Lily watched the woman intently, using her ability to read people. How long has it been since you last saw our dad? She asked. 12 years, Connie replied, since you were very little. And why do you want us now? Lily continued. Because I'm dying, Connie said simply, and because family should stay together. But we already have a family, David said. Elijah is our dad now. He may be your dad at heart, Connie said, but he's not your blood dad, and blood is more important. Why? Lily asked. Because that's the way God made things, Connie said, hesitating. My daughter Patricia can give you a better life, she continued. She lives in a big house in Chicago, has money, can put you in a private school. We don't want private school, Caleb said. We want to stay in our school with our friends. You'll make new friends, Connie insisted. We don't want new friends, Lucy said. We want our family. I'm your family, Connie said, her voice getting stronger. I'm your father's sister. Prove it, Lily said suddenly. How? Tell us something about our father that only family would know, Lily challenged. Connie hesitated. Well, he had a scar on his knee. Everyone who knew him knew that, Caleb said. He always told the story of how he got hurt. And he liked to fish, Connie tried. Our dad hated fishing, Lucy said. He was afraid of water. Well, people change, Connie said weakly. Lily approached the bed. You didn't really know our dad, did you? Of course I did, Connie protested. No, Lily said with certainty. You may even be his sister, but you haven't spoken for a long time. You don't know who he became. You don't know what he was like with us. That doesn't matter, Connie said. He was my brother. Yes, it does, Lily said. Because someone who didn't know our dad can't know what he would want for us. He would want you to stay with family, Connie insisted. He would want us to stay with those who love us, Lily corrected, and who loves us is Elijah. My daughter will love you, Connie promised. How do you know? Caleb asked. Did you ask her if she wants 4 strange children in her house? Connie hesitated again. Well, she'll accept because it's the right thing to do. Accepting because you're forced to isn't loving, Lucy said. It's tolerating. And we've already been tolerated before, David said. We don't want that again. Connie looked at the 4 children, seeing the determination in their eyes. You don't understand, she said, desperate. You're children. You don't know what's best for you. Yes, we do, Lily said. What's best for us is to stay with those who chose to love us, not with those who were forced to accept us. My daughter isn't forced. Yes, she is, Lily interrupted. You're dying and leaving the responsibility to her. That's forcing her. Connie began to cry again. I just want you to have a real family. We have, Caleb said. A family that chose each other. A family that fights for us, added Lucy. A family that loves us the way we are, David said. A real family, Lily concluded. Elijah, who had remained silent throughout the conversation, approached the bed. Connie, he said gently, I understand that you want the best for them. But the best for them is to stay where they are loved and cherished. You don't understand, Connie said. You don't have children. You don't know what family love is. I do have children, Elijah said firmly. These 4 are my children, and I know exactly what family love is. It's not the same thing. It's exactly the same thing, Elijah interrupted. Love is love. It doesn't matter if it comes from blood or from choice. Connie was silent for a long moment, looking at the children and then at Elijah. Are they really happy with you? She asked finally. Ask them, Elijah said. We are, Lily said. Happier than we've ever been in our lives. And you? Connie asked Elijah. Are you happy with them? They're the best thing that's ever happened to my life, Elijah replied without hesitating. Connie closed her eyes and sighed deeply. Maybe. Maybe I'm wrong, she murmured. You're not wrong for worrying about us, Lily said, surprising everyone with her generosity. You're just wrong about what's best for us. What do you think I should do? Connie asked. Let us stay where we belong, Caleb said. With who loves us, said Lucy. With our real family, said David. With Elijah, concluded Lily. Connie opened her eyes and looked directly at Elijah. Do you promise you'll take care of them? Always. I promise, Elijah said, with my life. And you'll never abandon them. Never, Elijah promised. They're my daughters forever. Connie nodded slowly. Then maybe it's best to let them stay. At that moment in the hospital room, another battle had been won. But this time it had been won not with legal arguments or documentary evidence, but with love, truth, and the wisdom of 4 children who knew exactly where they belonged. When they left the hospital, Elijah knew that they could finally live in peace. All the threats had been overcome, all the obstacles overcome, or at least that's what he thought, because he would soon discover that the greatest test of his determination was still to come. 2 weeks after the meeting with Connie Sanders, who had passed away a few days after giving up her claim, life at the factory had finally found a rhythm of true peace. The adoption process was in the final stage, and Elijah had received confirmation that he would soon be officially the father of the 4 children. It was an October morning when news arrived that would test his determination in a way he could never have imagined. Lily was in the backyard, taking care of the plants, when an unfamiliar car stopped in front of the factory. From it descended an elegant woman of approximately 35 years, accompanied by a well-dressed man. Elijah Montgomery, the woman asked when he answered the door. Yes, that's me. How can I help you? My name is Patricia Sanders, she said. I'm Connie Sanders' daughter. Elijah's heart raced. I thought your mother had given up the claim. She did, Patricia confirmed, but I didn't. What do you mean? My mother called me before she passed, Patricia explained. She told me about the children, about you, and I decided I want to meet them personally. Why? To see if she was right to give up, Patricia said. I'm a lawyer, Mr. Montgomery. I know I can reverse her decision if I can prove that it's not in the children's best interest. The man who accompanied her introduced himself. Dr. Richard Fonseca, child psychologist. I came to assess the children's conditions. Elijah felt a wave of déjà vu. Once again, someone was questioning his ability to take care of the children. The children are doing very well, he said. You can check whatever you want. We're going to do that, Patricia said, but I want to make it clear that I didn't come here out of obligation. I came because I really care about the well-being of these children. For the next 2 hours, Patricia and the psychologist observed the interaction between Elijah and the children, asked questions about the daily routine, examined the facilities, and spoke individually with each of the children. Lily, as always, was direct during her conversation with Patricia. You want us because you feel guilty, she said. Why do you think that? Patricia asked, surprised by the girl's perception. Because you didn't know we existed until your mother told you, Lily explained. If you really cared about family, you would have looked for us before. I didn't know you existed, Patricia admitted. And now that you know, you feel obligated to do something, Lily continued. But obligation isn't love. Who said it's obligation? Your eyes, Lily said simply. When you love someone, your eyes shine. When you feel obligated, they get worried. Patricia was silent for a moment. You're very observant for a 6-year-old. I had to learn to be, Lily said. When you have no one, you need to know who is safe and who is not. And I'm not safe. You're not dangerous, Lily said carefully. But you're also not our family. When the assessment was over, Patricia asked to speak privately with Elijah. Your children are very well cared for, she admitted. That's obvious. Thank you, Elijah said. But I have resources that you don't have, Patricia continued. I can offer private education, specialized medical care, opportunities that a small town can't give. And you think that's more important than love? Elijah asked. I think love without resources may not be enough, Patricia said. These children have potential. The girl, especially, is extremely intelligent. She deserves better opportunities. She will have opportunities, Elijah said. I recently discovered that my family has resources specifically saved to take care of children. They won't lack anything. But here there'll always be the orphaned children that the factory man adopted, Patricia said. In Chicago, they can be anything they want to be. Here they are loved, Elijah said. That's more important than anything they can be anywhere else. Mr. Montgomery, the psychologist said, joining the conversation, can I make an observation? Of course. In 20 years of profession, I've rarely seen children so emotionally secure, he said. They clearly trust you, feel protected, and have healthy bonds with each other. But, Patricia asked, feeling that there was something more. But I also see that they have developed a very strong emotional dependence on Mr. Montgomery, the psychologist continued. If something happened to him, it would be devastating for them. What are you suggesting? Elijah asked. That maybe it would be beneficial for them to have more support figures, the psychologist explained. A broader emotional safety net. Like an aunt in Chicago? Patricia suggested. Possibly, the psychologist said. Elijah felt a chill down his spine. Are you saying that I'm not enough for them? I'm saying that no one person alone is enough for 4 children who have already gone through abandonment, the psychologist clarified. They need to know they have options, that they don't depend entirely on a single person. But they have the whole community, Elijah protested. Mrs. Carmen, Gerald, other families. That's true, the psychologist agreed, but blood family offers a different kind of security. Even when that family doesn't know them, Elijah asked. I can get to know them, Patricia said. I can spend time here, establish a relationship before making any decision. How long? Elijah asked, suspecting the answer. A few weeks, Patricia said. Enough time for them to get to know me and I to get to know them. Elijah knew that he couldn't deny this request without seeming desperate or controlling. All right, he said reluctantly, but make it clear that they're not obligated to like you. Of course, Patricia agreed, and if they decide they want to stay here, I respect that decision. And if they decide they want to go with you? Patricia hesitated. Then we'll have to talk about it. That night, Elijah talked to the children about Patricia's proposal. She's going to stay here? Caleb asked. For a few weeks, Elijah confirmed, to get to know you better. And then? Then you decide if you want to keep in touch with her or not. What if she wants us to go to Chicago? Lucy asked. Then you decide what you want to do, Elijah said, although the words hurt to speak. You're not going to fight for us? David asked, surprised. I'm going to fight, Elijah promised, but I'm also going to respect what you decide, because I love you enough to want you to be happy, even if it's not with me. But we're happy with you, Lily said. Happier than we've ever been. I know, Elijah said, but maybe it's important for you to know all your options. Why? Asked Caleb. Because, Elijah hesitated, because the psychologist said something that made me think. Maybe I've been selfish in wanting you just for myself. You weren't selfish, Lucy said. You saved us. But what if there's something better for you? Elijah asked. What if Chicago really offers opportunities that you wouldn't have here? We don't want opportunities, David said. We want our family. What if both things are possible? Elijah asked. What if you can have family and opportunities? The children looked at each other, confused. It was the first time that Elijah didn't seem completely sure about their future together. Elijah, Lily said, approaching him, you don't want us anymore. Of course I do, Elijah said, hugging her. More than anything in the world. Then why are you saying these things? Because, Elijah took a deep breath, because sometimes loving someone means letting them go, if that's what's best for that person. But it's not the best for us, Caleb said. Staying here with you is the best for us. How can you be sure? Elijah asked. You've never seen the world out there. We don't need to see it, Lily said. We know that here is our place. But maybe you should at least give Patricia a chance, Elijah suggested, hating every word that came out of his mouth. The children looked at him with an expression he had never seen before, a mixture of confusion, hurt, and something that seemed almost betrayal. All right, Caleb said finally. If that's what you want, we'll give her a chance. It's not what I want, Elijah protested. It's what may be best for you. If you say so, Lucy said, but her voice was cold. That night, for the first time in months, the children didn't run to hug Elijah before going to sleep. They retreated to their room in silence, leaving him alone with his thoughts and his doubts. Elijah stayed awake late, questioning whether he had done the right thing. Was he really being generous by giving this opportunity to Patricia, or was he being cowardly by not fighting more fiercely for the family he loved so much? He didn't know that, in the next room, 4 children were also awake, whispering to each other and trying to understand why the man they considered their father suddenly seemed uncertain about wanting them. And he didn't know that this uncertainty would be exactly what Patricia would use to try to win them over. The last battle for the family was about to begin, and this time Elijah's greatest enemy would be his own generosity and his own doubts. The 3 weeks that followed were the most difficult that Elijah had lived since the children arrived. Patricia settled in the town inn and spent every day at the factory, getting to know the children, participating in their activities, and gradually building a relationship with them. To Elijah's despair, she proved to be genuinely caring and interested in the well-being of the children. She wasn't the calculating person he expected, but a woman who really seemed to want to know the nieces she had never known existed. David was the first to open up to her, attracted by her stories about the big city and the photos she showed of Chicago. Lucy was impressed with Patricia's education and the opportunities she described. Even Caleb began to ask questions about what it would be like to live in a metropolis. Only Lily remained resistant, watching everything with her sharp perception and an unwavering loyalty to Elijah. "She's a good person," Lily said one night, while Elijah was putting her to sleep. "But," Elijah asked, feeling that there was something more. "But she doesn't love us like you love," Lily said simply. "She likes us. But love is different." "How do you know the difference?" "Because when you look at me, your eyes get happy," Lily explained. "When she looks, her eyes get interested. It's different." "Maybe she'll learn to love you over time," Elijah suggested, hating himself for saying that. "Maybe," Lily agreed, "but I don't want to teach someone to love me. I want to stay with who already loves me." The following week, Patricia made a proposal that changed the whole dynamic of the situation. "Elijah," she said, "I have an idea that can solve everything." "What idea?" "What if the children spent a few months with me in Chicago? Not definitely, but as an experience. They could see what life is like there. I could get to know them better, and then everyone could make an informed decision." "A few months?" Elijah repeated, feeling his heart clench. 3 months, Patricia said, during the school vacation. They would come back at the beginning of the school year, and then they would decide what they want to do, and if they decide to stay. "Then they stay," Patricia said, "and if they decide to come back, they come back." "Would you agree to let them come back?" "Yes," Patricia said, "but I also hope that you agree to let them stay, if that's what they want." Elijah knew that it was a fair proposal, but the idea of spending 3 months without the children terrified him. And even worse, the possibility that they might choose not to return. "I need to talk to them," he said finally. That night, Elijah gathered the 4 children in the living room. "Patricia made a proposal," he said. "She wants you to spend 3 months with her in Chicago as an experience." "And then?" asked Caleb. "Then you decide where you want to stay," Elijah explained. "And you? What do you want?" Lucy asked. I want, Elijah paused, taking a deep breath. I want you to be happy. And if that means experiencing a different life to be sure of what you want, then that's what we should do. But what if we decide to stay there? David asked. Then I'll have to accept it, Elijah said, his voice trembling slightly, because I love you enough to want you to be happy, even if it's far from me. Lily stood up and approached him. Elijah, do you want us to leave? No, he said honestly. I don't want to. But maybe it's selfish of me to want you to stay here without knowing other possibilities. It's not selfish, Lucy said. You saved us. But what if there's something better for you? Elijah asked. What if Chicago offers opportunities that you wouldn't have here? We don't want opportunities, David said. We want our family. What if both things are possible? Elijah asked. The children looked at each other, confused. It was the first time that Elijah didn't seem completely sure about their future together. Elijah, Lily said, approaching him, you don't want us anymore? Of course I do, Elijah said, hugging her, more than anything in the world. Then why are you saying these things? Because, Elijah took a deep breath, because sometimes loving someone means letting them go, if that's what's best for that person. But it's not the best for us, Caleb said. Staying here with you is the best for us. How can you be sure? Elijah asked. You've never seen the world out there. We don't need to see it, Lily said. We know that here is our place. But maybe you should at least give Patricia a chance, Elijah suggested, hating every word that came out of his mouth. The children looked at him with an expression he had never seen before, a mixture of confusion, hurt, and something that seemed almost betrayal. All right, Caleb said finally. If that's what you want, we'll give her a chance. It's not what I want, Elijah protested. It's what may be best for you. If you say so, Lucy said, but her voice was cold. That night, for the first time in months, the children didn't run to hug Elijah before going to sleep. They retreated to their room in silence, leaving him alone with his thoughts and his doubts. Elijah stayed awake late, questioning if he had done the right thing. Was he really being generous by giving this opportunity to Patricia, or was he being cowardly by not fighting more fiercely for the family he loved so much? He didn't know that, in the next room, 4 children were also awake, whispering to each other and trying to understand why the man they considered their father suddenly seemed uncertain about wanting them. And he didn't know that this uncertainty would be exactly what Patricia would use to try to win them over. The last battle for the family was about to begin, and this time Elijah's greatest enemy would be his own generosity and his own doubts. The 3 weeks that followed were the most difficult that Elijah had lived since the children arrived. Patricia settled in the town inn and spent every day at the factory, getting to know the children, participating in their activities, and gradually building a relationship with them. To Elijah's despair, she proved to be genuinely caring and interested in the well-being of the children. She wasn't the calculating person he expected, but a woman who really seemed to want to know the nieces she had never known existed. David was the first to open up to her, attracted by her stories about the big city and the photos she showed of Chicago. Lucy was impressed with Patricia's education and the opportunities she described. Even Caleb began to ask questions about what it would be like to live in a metropolis. Only Lily remained resistant, watching everything with her sharp perception and an unwavering loyalty to Elijah. "She's a good person," Lily said one night while Elijah was putting her to sleep. "But," Elijah asked, feeling that there was something more. "But she doesn't love us like you love," Lily said simply. "She likes us. But love is different. How do you know the difference?" "Because when you look at me, your eyes get happy," Lily explained. "When she looks, her eyes get interested. It's different. Maybe she'll learn to love you over time," Elijah suggested, hating himself for saying that. "Maybe," Lily agreed, "but I don't want to teach someone to love me. I want to stay with who already loves me." In the following week, Patricia made a proposal that changed the whole dynamic of the situation. "Elijah," she said, "I have an idea that can solve everything." "What idea?" "What if the children spent a few months with me in Chicago? Not definitely, but as an experience. They could see what life is like there. I could get to know them better, and then everyone could make an informed decision." "A few months," Elijah repeated, feeling his heart clench. "3 months," Patricia said, "during summer vacation. They would come back at the beginning of the school year, and then they would decide what they want to do." "And if they decide to stay?" "Then they stay," Patricia said. "And if they decide to come back, they come back." "Would you agree to let them come back?" "Yes," Patricia said. "But I also hope that you agree to let them stay, if that's what they want." Elijah knew that it was a fair proposal, but the idea of spending 3 months without the children terrified him. And even worse, the possibility that they might choose not to return. "I need to talk to them," he said finally. That night, Elijah gathered the 4 children in the living room. "Patricia made a proposal," he said. "She wants you to spend 3 months with her in Chicago as an experience." "And then?" asked Caleb. "Then you decide where you want to stay," Elijah explained. "And you? What do you want?" Lucy asked. "I want," Elijah paused, taking a deep breath. "I want you to be happy. And if that means experiencing a different life, to be sure of what you want, then that's what we should do." "But what if we decide to stay there?" David asked. "Then I'll have to accept it," Elijah said, his voice trembling slightly. "Because I love you enough to want you to be happy, even if it's far from me." Lily stood up and approached him. "Elijah, do you want us to leave?" "No," he said honestly, "I don't want to. But maybe it's selfish of me to want you to stay here without knowing other possibilities." "It's not selfish," Lily said. "It's love. Sometimes love means letting go," Elijah said, repeating the words he hated. "And sometimes," Lily said, "love means fighting to stay together." During the following week, the children debated among themselves about the proposal. Elijah could hear them talking quietly in their room, weighing the pros and cons, imagining what life in Chicago would be like. It was Caleb who made the final decision for everyone. "We're going," he announced one morning. "We're going to spend 3 months with Patricia." Elijah felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. "Are you sure?" "We are," Lucy said. "But it's not because we want to leave here." "Then why?" Elijah asked. "Because you need to be sure that we're your choice, not your obligation," Caleb explained, with a maturity that surprised Elijah. "You've never been an obligation," Elijah protested. "We know," David said, "but you're doubting yourself, and we need to prove to you that our choice is real." "How so?" "If we stay here now," Lily explained, "you'll always wonder if we made the right choice. But if we go, experience life there, and still choose to come back, then you'll know that it's because we really want to stay with you." Elijah looked at the 4 children, impressed with their wisdom and generosity. "You're doing this for me?" "We're doing it for us," Lucy corrected, "because we want a family that has no doubts." "And you?" Elijah asked. "Aren't you afraid of liking life there and not wanting to come back?" "No," Lily said with absolute certainty. "Because home isn't a place. Home is where the people who love us are, and you'll be here waiting." "Always," Elijah promised. A month later, Elijah was at the Harmony Creek bus station, saying goodbye to the 4 children who had transformed his life. They were excited about the adventure, but also visibly emotional about the separation. 3 months, Elijah said, hugging each of them, "and then you decide." "We've already decided," Lily said, hugging him tight. "We're just going to prove our decision." "Take care," Elijah asked, "and remember that you'll always have a home here." "And you remember," Caleb said, "that you'll always be our dad, no matter where we are." As the bus departed, taking his daughters away, Elijah stood at the station until it completely disappeared over the horizon. Then he returned home, to a factory that suddenly seemed huge and empty. The next 3 months were the longest of Elijah's life. He talked to the children on the phone every day, heard about their adventures in Chicago, about the schools they visited, the places they met, the opportunities they discovered. Patricia sent regular photos, showing the children happy and adapted to life in the big city. They seemed to be having fun, learning, growing, and Elijah died a little more each day, fearing that they would decide to stay. "They're going to come back," said Mrs. Carmen, who came daily to check on him. "Those girls know where their home is." "What if they don't come back?" Elijah asked. "Then you'll have to accept it," she replied. "But then you'll also know that you did the right thing, letting them choose." It was on a March morning, exactly 3 months after their departure, that Elijah received the call that would change everything. "Elijah?" It was Lily's voice on the other end of the line. "Hi, my dear. How are you?" "We're fine," she said. "And we're ready to come home." Elijah's heart almost stopped. "All of you?" "All of us," Lily confirmed. "Chicago is cool, but it's not our home." "And Patricia, what did she say?" "She understood," Lily said. "She said that real family is where the heart feels at home." "When are you coming back?" "Tomorrow," Lily said, and Elijah could hear the smile in her voice. "Can Dad come pick us up at the station?" "Dad?" Elijah repeated, emotional. "That's what you are," Lily said simply. "Our real dad." The next day, when the bus arrived at the Harmony Creek bus station, Elijah was there waiting, and when 4 children ran towards him shouting, "Dad!" he knew that he was finally complete. "Did you miss it?" he asked, hugging everyone at once. "A lot," Caleb said. "But we needed to be sure. And now you are." "Now we know," Lucy said, "that no matter how many beautiful places there are in the world, none is more beautiful than our home." "And we know," David said, "that family isn't about having the best things. It's about having the right people." "And we know," Lily said, looking directly into Elijah's eyes, "that you are our right person." 6 months later, in a simple ceremony at the Harmony Creek Courthouse, Elijah Montgomery officially adopted Caleb, Lucy, David, and Lily Santos. They chose to keep the Santos surname in honor of their biological parents, but added Montgomery to represent their new family. The factory became not only a home, but a welcoming center for other children in need. Following the traditions started by Elijah's grandfather, they began to receive children in temporary situations, helping them find permanent families. Lily, now 8 years old, had become the unofficial ambassador of the program, using her ability to read people to help identify the best families for each child. "How do you always know which family is the right one?" Elijah asked one afternoon, watching her talk to a new child who had arrived. "It's easy," Lily said. "I just need to look in their eyes and see where there's real love." "And in my eyes, what do you see?" "I see home," she said simply. "I see family. I see forever." That night, while the children slept and the factory rested in silence, Elijah went out to the porch and looked at the stars over Harmony Creek. He thought about the day he saw 4 children looking for food in the trash, and how that moment had changed not only their lives, but his own. He had learned that family isn't defined by blood or legal documents, but by love, choice, and determination. He had discovered that sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as challenges, and that true love always finds a way. And as he watched the soft light that came from the children's room, where 4 girls and boys slept safe and loved, Elijah knew that he had found his true purpose in life, to be a father, protector, and home for those who needed a second chance. Little Lily, who had once drawn trapped and sad birds, now drew entire families surrounded by free and colorful birds. And in that simple transformation was contained all the magic of a story that began with suffering and ended with love, hope, and the certainty that sometimes the most beautiful families are those that choose each other. In Harmony Creek, at the yellow factory surrounded by flower gardens, an unconventional but deeply united family continued writing their love story, one happy day at a time, proving that the true home is where the heart finds peace.